All right, and we are officially live. All right, welcome Tony from Uncle Tony's Garage, and this is
Nice to be back here, Craig.
this is the second time we've chatted, and it's
Yeah.
the first time was great, and so this is sort of like the Gearhead Monk Inauguration Day wisdom. I really didn't plan on this being on Inauguration Day; it just sort of happened that way.
It's an interesting day for sure.
Yeah. So, we're just gonna just chat about stuff. It's kind of like your Sunday show. It's a show about
Nothing,
nothing, but about nothing.
nothing but everything.
Yeah, nothing but everything. Yeah. From that nothingness, much comes. So,
My lighting is weird. It looked like I have like jaundice or something. Hang on, let me,
there you go. It's a little bright. Okay. Whoa, it's a little brighter.
a little too much.
I
Oh,
tell
I'm
you.
not gonna worry about that.
Yeah, most
Okay.
people listen. Most people listen anyway, and I must say, I truly do absolutely admire people who do video, whether it's video conferences or whether it's podcasts or whatever they do. When you talk to them, their lighting is always perfect. It's like a, it's like they have the perfect background lit, and yeah, I admire them, and it also kind of like pisses me off.
I'm never ready. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's like I know I need to do things with audio. I know need to do things with lighting. I'm supposed to be doing this for a living. It's my seventh year doing this stuff, but somehow or another, every morning I'm surprised by it. It's like,
Yeah, especially surprised when you find out how long you've been doing it. When it hits you, like you get some little like email about another anniversary that you've been signed up to whatever service. Like a few weeks ago, I realized this is the 8th year for Radiant Creators, and I thought, "Are you kidding?" Like I, I had no idea.
yeah, we
You know.
started. We signed the channel up in 2017, but didn't put any videos on it. And then in May or I don't know, May or June of 2018, we started actually making videos. And I've been doing it full time professionally since the end of 2018. So this is 7 years now.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing how it kind of integrates into your life, and you don't really think about it. You just sort of do it. Yeah.
It's just the normal thing. It becomes the normal thing.
Yeah, it does.
And
Mhm.
well, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, so um, today was Inauguration Day, and I hadn't really planned on it being Inauguration Day when we talked. I didn't quite realize it until, oh wow, look, it is like Inauguration Day. So that happened, that came, that went, and the world's different now, I guess you could say. So how's inauguration been for you how's the inauguration day been for you? Because this is a historic day. So like did anything what
It,
happened today?
I, I did the front brakes on the Belvedere.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I mean, it went smoother than I expected it to. I was expecting things to happen along the line to derail, but it never came to be. I, I'll tell you what I'm excited about. Right,
Yes.
when you look at the whole spectrum of
Yeah.
everything that's gone on and the changes that are coming, there's only one thing that I'm really excited about. That I'm anxious to see how it goes, and that's Cash Patel.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right?
Gotcha.
I think that so obviously Trump is a known commodity. Um, uh, he's put together an interesting, with RFK and Musk. I mean, that's with the Doge. That's just so awesome. They're
It's
going to cut the government. That's all good, but Cash Patel is a guy I've been following for several years now. Right? He's way deep in the I don't want to say conspiracy world, um, but some people would consider it to be conspiracy. The things that he,
hmm.
he talks about, and now he's the director of the FBI,
Mm.
and it's like, wow, because if you think when you think about the things that I've heard him talk about specifically on various alternative media, to put it that way, right? To have him in the position that he's in right now, I think that's where all the fireworks are going to be. I think that's where all the fireworks are going to be.
Mm. I could see it because um when you look at the head of the FBI and the role that's played all through, history, like you look at Dulles, just you look at him and the incredible changes in this world that happened while he was, the head of the FBI. And it's the, not to blow too much smoke up its ass, because I'm sure it would like us to, but the FBI, when you think about it, the power that organization has, which has not been used for the best things recently, but the power that it does have, if you do have somebody who decides to who's a badass, who's a truth seeker, who's a conspiracy theorist, which really means that you just follow empirical research,
Yeah.
it's really the truth is. And so with that, if you get somebody sitting there who really has that vision of, let's say, like Robert F. Kennedy said, we need to disband the CIA, tear it apart, and just toss it.
Oh, JFK said that.
I'm sorry, JFK. Yeah, not the, yeah. And so if he has that vision, maybe he's not going to tear the FBI apart, but maybe use it to tear the bad aspects of it apart. That would be,
well, I don't think he would have much power over the FBI per se, or over the CIA. That's Trump and whoever is. But Patel specifically, he's a Q guy. He's been a Q guy since day one, yes. And fairly early on during the whole Q thing that was happening in 2018, it was speculated that he was part of that circle that was making those posts. And he's never made any bones about, I guess if you can go back and listen to interviews he's done on all of these different shows. He's never made any bones about Q being a very real thing, a very accurate thing. Most people want to dismiss it, but he never dismissed. He never. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one. She went into office being a Q person, right? And then kind of like backed away from it. Where Kash Patel never backed away from it. He always he references Q often, and now he's the director of the FBI.
Well, if he was interesting, if he was connected, so if he was a Q person, and people can have various opinions on whatever Q was. At the very, very least, it got a lot more people looking a lot deeper than they ever would have. So that's good,
Exactly.
So whatever it was, PSYOP or this or that, when I think about the Q movement.
Well, the thing about PSYOPs is PSYOPs aren't always. So if you've got two sides, you got the black hats and the white hats, as it's referred to, right? Well, a PSYOP doesn't only belong to one side.
Oh, yeah.
You can have a white hat PSYOP the same way you would have a black hat PSYOP. It has a kind of negative connotation.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that everything is subterfuge when it comes to the true running of the world. So why wouldn't you have a white hat PSYOP to match a black hat PSYOP? Because the normies are just oblivious. So you do it if you have to. I'm of the opinion, and people think I'm nuts. Kathy Bananas thinks I'm nuts. That this whole thing that's happened for the last several years has been a show.
Yes, okay.
That I don't believe that Trump ever actually left. Well, he left there. So see, you got the government operates on two levels. You've got the military, which operates under the constitutional republic, and then you've got the executive branch, which currently and has since 1871 operated as a corporation. Well, I don't think that Trump was ever actually relieved of his position as commander-in-chief of the military. There was now, if you go back to the inauguration, the last inauguration, there were all sorts of weirdnesses around that, and I followed it pretty closely at the time. But as Biden was going down the street with his motorcade, the military had his back turned towards him. The music that they played was actually a funeral march. He didn't ride Air Force One. He had a different plane. Trump went to an Air Force base on Air Force One that day. There was a lot of there's a lot of anomalies that had to do with that. And then you get into the stuff that I see it. I don't know how other people don't see it, but the original Biden is not the Biden who.
Oh, heavens no.
Right? The
Yeah.
ear, it's almost okay. So it's like they go out of their way to make it obvious if you're halfway cognizant. Okay, I don't want to use the word awake, right? But if you're halfway cognizant, paying attention, you cannot miss that that's not the same person. And they went out of their way that his left, well, his right ear, I guess it is. Yeah, well, the one ear is connected all the way down here. Where if you look at pre-president or resident Biden pictures, he has normal earlobes. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like two different people. It's clearly two different people. And then the absurdities of everything that's going on, the dark Brandon thing, it's just over the top.
Yeah.
So it's my opinion, I could be wrong, but it's my opinion that everything that has transpired over the last several years has been a show because
Mm.
the American public is thick. They don't, well, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's the programming. It's what they went through at schools. It's what they went through. Uh, all of the indoctrinations that they go through during the course of it, and then of course the mainstream media. And it's not their fault that they don't see it. It's just a cognitive dissonance among
Yes.
the masses. And I think that this whole show, this whole event that's happened over the last several years, was a way of smacking them in the face and saying, look how crazy this is. Do you really believe that this is what's going on? Including like Dementia Joe. The guy just stumbling around, and like, falling upstairs and falling asleep during meetings. It's like it's so obviously it's like a satire. It was a comedy show,
Yeah.
but maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, and they really show it to us sometimes where anyone who's watched a little bit of Hollywood has seen the amazing rubber masks, like the
I'm sure.
latex, whatever they are, that people pull over, then they blend them in. And uh, so that technology to do it is amazing. You just look at what I mean, free AI video tools offer.
Yep.
You can do kind of like fake deep fakes. Like the real technology is the expensive stuff, and some of that stuff we don't really have access to. But um, I think Forrest Gump was a was a bigger deal than people think because they showed him in old newsreels
That's right.
and it was perfect. And I think that's the thing. They're always kind of showing you going like, well, look, and that was what, 20 years ago, I
Yeah,
think, or
more than
something
that.
like,
It was like 25,
yeah.
almost 30 years ago, I believe.
Yeah. And so you look at the technology they had then, and that was probably superficial compared to what they've got now. So yeah. Well, one thing I think about with Patel is, so somebody I kind of like, and people will probably cringe, but somebody I have a soft spot for is MacArthur, because a lot of people know like the not MacArthur, McCarthy.
Of course.
Yeah, McCarthy, because a lot of people, they know him for some of the crazy court shenanigans and the fact that he went off after a lot of Hollywood, but there were a lot of commies in Hollywood. And the thing is,
No, he
he
was right.
yeah,
He was
yeah,
absolutely, positively, no question about it. He was on top of it. But
yeah.
again, there's like, the power structure that was there in place at the time, which is still more or less in place, just different generations of it. Well, they're not going to have that. Of course, he's going to be the crackpot. You see communists behind every plant. No, they really were
They
behind every.
were. There were commies everywhere, especially in Hollywood. So
No, he was right. He was right.
yeah, and
At
here,
this point, the swamp has got to get drained. Now, if you notice over the last few years, right now, you're old enough to remember just the boring politics that would be the normal news. Okay, where you had congressional meetings and all of these things that would happen that were very official, that were very populist. But you notice there's been a complete absence of that over the last 4 years.
mhm,
Whenever anything has to do with Congress, congressional thing, it's always a committee with just a handful of people. It's never a full. You see what I'm saying? And
yeah,
there have been many, many reports of DC basically being a ghost town for the last 4 years.
it's
Like none
true.
of the normal activity that goes on there has been going on there. And then really neat, okay, talk about conspiracy stuff. Google Maps. I checked this myself now, right? Google Maps no longer lists Washington, D.C. as Washington, D.C. They took the D.C. off. Now it just says Washington.
Oh,
So
interesting.
again, I may be crazy. Maybe it's a conspiracy theorist in me. Yeah, I don't know. But I believe that the mission now is to dissolve the corporation. I believe that the corporation went bankrupt back in 2008, 2012. And this period of time in between has been a matter of liquidating the corporation. I think it's
Mm.
done. And I think that at this point, sometime over the next year or two, possibly like the third year, I think that we're going to see the constitutional republic restored and the corporation completely dissolved.
Well, I'll take that vision. I mean, it's possible, and it's one of the things that with Trump coming into office, since this is an inauguration day, Gearhead wisdom, I think it's important for people to whether they like Trump or don't like Trump, it's kind of irrelevant. It's that no matter what, it would be helpful if people allow for something good to happen. Just at least have it entertain the possibility that good things could happen.
I think lots of good things are going to happen, but I think that we have inevitable bad stuff. Like the concept of economic collapse is it's not a myth. It's an absolute certainty. So you had I watched it. I guess this was about a week ago. You had Andy Schectman on.
Yes. Yeah.
I am a huge Andy Schectman fan. I try to catch anything that he does, right? And he's part of a collective, like it's an unofficial collective. Okay, Bix Weir. I don't know if you're familiar with Bix Weir.
Yes.
Okay, Road to Ruta. Um,
Yeah.
well, I was just joking around with Kathy about this. It's like, uh, how many degrees to cliff high?
Yeah.
Right? How many degrees are all of these people to cliff high? And Andy Schectman is like 2 degrees to cliff high. It's like this higher thought brain trust that
Mm-hmm.
knows what's going on. So I've been following Cliff High since the 1990s.
Yeah.
When he first came about, man, his timing hasn't been exact, although he did call a few things, to an exact day. But his overall view has been, I mean, as accurate as he can be. And he's calling for this period of melee now.
Okay.
Okay,
Melee.
melee. That's what he calls it, the melee. So he called the Trump assassination,
Mm.
right, or the assassination attempt. Oh, geez, yeah. Um, which is an ironic story, right? I'll tell you a quick story. I'm going to do a
Yes.
video. I put a time. So I have one of my friends, Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage, came down to race me with one of his cars. Okay, and while he was here, I lent him a timing light, and he forgot to give it back to me on the way when he left. He lives in Washington State. So I said, I have to keep it. Don't worry about it, right? So I went and bought another timing light. And the timing light sucked. I picked it up from Harbor Freight. It was like one of those dial-back Jamies. I hate dial-back timing lights, and it just didn't work very well. So I made a video that day. Okay, I took the timing light and I brought it out behind the shop and I hung it off of a tree and I shot it 6 times. So I took the video, took the GoPro, and I ran it back to the house over here. And Kathy said, "Did you see they shot Trump?" Don't put the video up.
Oh gosh,
Do
yeah.
not put the
Yeah.
video
Oh wow. Yeah, maybe don't upload that one.
up.
At least not the same day. Oh wow.
Well, yeah, it was the only time I ever shot anything on the channel, and it was that day.
Oh my gosh. Well, there really are no coincidences. There isn't. And
I know.
there was a lady we interviewed a week ago, Elaine, and she references this book where, and there's a lot of actual. It's science. I mean, it's not new agey, where our sphere of influence is much, much greater than we think, and our connectivity to others is much, much greater than we think. So we have our immediate uh, influence, our secondary, and our tritary, I guess you'd say, influence, and we have a much greater effect on those. And we affect more people than we think, and more people than we think affect us. And the percent that it actually does is amazing. So anyway, it's over there on that podcast. You can look at the show notes, and the book
Well,
is
so
mentioned.
what you're talking about is something I give a lot of thought to, right? I
Yeah.
actually spent very little time thinking about cars. I'm
Yeah.
occupied with things like this. But so I mean, the theory of frequency,
Yes.
everything operating on frequency. The perfect example of it is tuning forks.
Yes.
Okay, so you can have 320, you have 100 tuning forks, and they're all the same. They're all tuned to the same pitch, but none of them are in motion. Now, as soon as you put one in motion, the others start vibrating in sympathy. So it works the same way with people, right?
Yes.
Like for instance, we as a YouTuber, we develop tribes. I never use the word fan. I don't like the word fan. I have viewers, and the collective of viewers is a tribe, and this is my tribe. And it's all because it's to some degree, we're all the same tuning fork, and I just
Yeah.
happen to be the catalyst that gets the other ones moving a little bit. Some more than others, but because we're all the same construction, this that we're all going to basically resonate with it. So you take that to a bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
that's how global consciousness works. I mean, the Schumann resonance.
Yes. And the Schumann was off the charts today, by the way. It was going.
Well, Cliff High called. So what did he say now? So now this was a prediction he made. This is based. Are you familiar with High at all?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So you know about the Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview.
You know, I missed the details on that one.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
In 2005, 2006, he said that the Rogan, there would be an interview with Joe Rogan and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now, this at the time was 2006. Joe Rogan is still like a television actor, and Donald Trump is nowhere near politics at this period of time. So for those two names to come up in an interview wouldn't make much sense in the context. But you fast forward, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, 18 years. Well, there you go. Now Rogan is like the household name podcaster, and Trump was the president, and here they are having an interview. And he said 39 days from the interview, that the interview was going to be a temporal marker. That 39 days from the interview, there would be a shock type of event. And the assassination attempt took place 39 days after the interview.
Wow. And I like that Cliff Hyde. I've always really dug that he talks about temporal markers, because those do exist. I mean, this is where if one wants to be extremely quantum physicsy, new agey, you can say where timelines become entangled, where they become mixed, where boom, you have this moment that ripples and affects everything. So to me, the quantum markers are a big deal. And so it would make sense that you would see those, before they happen. And so, yeah, I used to get Cliff Hyde's report, but it was darn pricey back in the day. And then I would read it, and it'd always be like the blue flat things and the pink wiggles or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm not paying $70 a month for this. But no, he's absolutely amazing. And he puts out, tremendous, what he puts out free is all a person needs. I mean, it's really there. And following him forever. And I get what he does. I get what he originally did with the Access database and this and that. I mean, everything he was doing, like web scraping for info, and then, finding ways to hook into that and get it into databases, and then et cetera, et cetera. I mean, he was doing cool stuff. I mean, I could validate what he was doing as far as it being possible. And yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
Well, so if you we were talking about that kind of circle of brain trust where Andy Sheckman is like a degree from. Well, you've also got Dick Allgaier, who's a remote viewer.
Yes.
And he's like 1 degree from Cliff High. The two of them compare notes all the time, and he's pretty fairly accurate. His group, I can't remember the name of it, Future Forecasting Group, and they throw a bunch of teasers out on YouTube. They never actually put any real meat on YouTube, just teasers for their own thing. But He's a known and accurate remote viewer. So he comes to his visions or his conclusions based on these remote viewing protocols, which they hold to pretty stringent standards. And Cliff High, with the webbot, the scraper, is doing it through collective consciousness.
Yeah.
So, but they come to the same basic conclusions. So it's like what part of the woo are
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? What part of the woo you're plugging into, but it's all still like one big, you know.
Oh yeah, and the thing with the remote viewing is that's something that a person can, I would say, even validate for themselves if they want to. I mean,
Yeah.
the Monroe Institute, I do believe, where a lot of the what do they call it? Can I forget the name of it? But they have, it's like it's a lot of hemisync to go through. I'm not there yet, but if one starts and keeps after it, there is a home course basically on remote viewing and
Yeah.
you can loosen up and you can do it and one can validate it for themselves. And so when you have there's another remote viewing group that I like. I have not actually heard of the future forecasters, so I'll have to check them out. But Farsight, if you've ever heard of them.
I've
I
heard.
mean, Farsight is a remote viewing group, and they put out a lot of content free. They have, of course, a paid subscription where you can get more, you get it quicker. But in general, what they put out free is tremendous. And Farsight, it is they're always, sometimes they remote view things that are silly and they make themselves look a little dumb. But when they remote view things that are real, it actually can be quite insightful. So yeah, I mean, if
Okay.
you can, yeah, if you can get like 10 remote viewers who don't know each other to remote view something, who never talk to one another, who never know what the other one's actually said, then you present that, and there's this incredible like convergence
Yeah. There's
of,
a synchronicity between them. Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna say, well, there you go. I mean, that's
Oh, I
beyond.
have no doubt this stuff exists. But wait, I got to go back to
Yeah.
something from a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Because I was talking about the temporal marker with the Rogan
Yes.
Trump interview. It wasn't. I'm sorry. It wasn't the assassination attempt. It was the UFO thing.
Okay. Yeah.
It was 39 days from the Trump Rogan interview, which would have been December 3rd. And December 3rd is when the drone thing hit mainstream.
Mm.
It had been building up. There were drone sightings here and drone sightings there, but on December 3rd, the mainstream media got a hold of it, and it was all over the place. That's what it was. I completely.
Drone thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a good one for you. Like, um, what what were the drones? What do you think it was?
What do I think it was?
Yeah, or
You know,
is.
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. The because you had a mix of these drones and you had the plasmoids.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Whether if you're sitting here as grown men in talking
Yeah.
about plasmoids, but yeah,
Yeah.
they were out there. Okay, um, I, those I believe are sentient.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are independent sentient things. But I couldn't really go beyond that for this is what my gut reaction tells me that they are. The drones, I'm not sure. It definitely wasn't. See, there's a lot of stuff like you talk about. Okay, was the Chinese sending over drones to spy on us, or the Russians sending over drones to spy on us? Well, first off, that's ridiculous. They can track anything from anywhere on the earth. With I mean, you listen. I get a report on my phone that at the end of the month it tells me not only how many miles I went, but where I went. But it also tells me whether I was on my motorcycle or in a car.
Oh, wow.
Okay, you do not need drones running around to find anything like that, right? They can spot stuff. They can read a postage stamp from outer space. You don't have to zigzag through neighborhoods to find information or sniff for nukes or whatever it is that they claim that they were doing. But it's absurd to think that it would be the Chinese. If the Chinese actually wanted war with us, okay, they don't. Nobody has to fire a shot. We would be crippled in like 72 hours. All they have to do is stop sending stuff,
Yes.
right? Seriously. If China says, you know what, screw you, USA, You're going down the toilet, right? They don't have to fire a single shot. They don't have a single weapon. All they have to do is close their ports.
Yeah.
All they got to do is close their ports. And then literally our entire civilization comes apart in a week.
Yeah.
So
It's like,
I
yeah,
back to the
people.
drones. I don't know what they were. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like people would be surprised how many F-35 parts are made in China. So, so there you go. You know.
The transformers and stuff that our
Yes.
power grid operates off of, the replacement parts are all Chinese. Everything is Chinese. They've already won. They won World War. World War III was an economic war. It's over. It's done. They already won. Now it's a reshuffling of the deck.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's when you talk about a temporal marker. I think that this is a temporal marker, the inauguration, and I think we'll see what happens from here. I think that definitely people have a feeling of at least the die has been cast, and we'll see what happens. And if nothing else, people have hope. And Vivek Ramaswamy, like I do kind of see him as the modern McCarthy. And when we look at Joseph Farrell, a great writer. He's been on the show a few times. He's written like one of these guys who's written like 40 plus books. I think he has like two of MacArthur. And a lot of historians, like almost like archaeologists and historians, these characters who've been studying this have found that they've kind of traced to where McCarthy got his information to a few people that they think this probably came from here. These guys could have had this info. And then he wrote his book, Day of Deceit, which basically
Okay.
it is dense and small text. It's a tough book to get through, but it is that should have been that book was a temporal marker, I think, whether people realize it or not, because it basically said like World War II was bullshit.
Patton
Boom.
said Patton, Patton said we fought the wrong enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
So take that for what it's worth. I am of the personal belief. I've come. Probably more so since the last time we talked. I have come around to the realization that at this point it's almost like 100%. 100% of the history that we're told
Yes.
is bullshit. It's all made up. Um, going far beyond, like I've gone down the Tartarian rabbit hole. I've gone down the mud flood rabbit hole. I've seen the melted buildings. There's no way anybody could tell me those are not melted buildings. There's enough evidence, physical evidence, that we can actually see. Once you see it through a certain lens, it becomes obvious. You know what I mean? No, there's no way people with horses and buggies built this, with dirt roads. It's like you look at a city, like you look at my favorite thing is like you look at like New York City, right? So that's where I'm from originally. And you look at illustrations, drawings of New York City from like 1830, right? 1820, 1830. And it's farmland, and there's Indians and teepees and like a couple of shacks and stuff like that. And then you look at films from the turn of the century, like 1900, okay? And it's blown out. It's all completely built out with all of the infrastructure and all of the buildings and all of the. There's just no way that type of growth, that type of construction could take place in that short a period of time, given the lack of technology, the lack of power tools. There's every rivet had to be beaten in with a hammer. You see what I'm saying? There's no way you can build a city with all of that massive infrastructure in such a short period of time. Could not happen. There's a lot of things like that. You look at you take like the Pilgrims, okay? So the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock in 1620, okay? But by within 100 years of that, you've got the whole entire East Coast more or less settled. You've got cities, you've got all sorts of things, you've got roads. How did a ship or a couple of shiploads of people expand that much that fast? You look at the railroads. You go from like zero railroads in 1800 to a couple of like small little backyard setups in like 1810, 1810, 1815, 1820. But by 1850, you've got networks that run, by 1869, you've got a network that runs all the way across the country, thousands and thousands of miles of rail, thousands of locomotives, all of these things. How did this happen in such a short period of time without the technology that we have today, without the manufacturing technology we have today?
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. It's like I'm coming to the realization more and more and more that once you see it, you can't unsee it.
100%. Yeah. And I question like with the American Indians, as we call them, the absolute difference in tribes, different evolutionary levels, different, obviously racial differences. And you start thinking like, where'd you guys come from? You're, the Cherokee and the Comanches. And you're like, you guys are like the Cherokees pretty much they were white. You're like, wait a second.
I'm in Cherokee country here. It's like every other person is part Cherokee, and they're all blonde haired, blue eyed.
Yeah, you're like, wait a second. So you're telling me, like, how long were you on this continent undisturbed? And yet you have, within a very small, amount of space, big picture, um, drastic, different levels of civilization and also profoundly different ethno backgrounds. Like, it seems like, did
Well,
somebody put them there, or what? How is it possible? Yeah.
okay, but you see, there were maps from the 1300s, the 1400s, okay, previous to Columbus and all that nonsense, right? There
Yeah.
are maps that show the United States that clearly show San Francisco labeled as San Francisco.
Mm,
They show Chicago labeled as Chalaga. They show
mm,
Washington, D.C. labeled as Norumbega. And these places are all illustrated on these maps as having cities, as having castles, and that's how you illustrate it in those days, a castle and then the village around it. They show the states, actually they show the whole West Coast cut off with like like as if the West Coast is an island. Okay, and basically it's where the Grand Canyon is now. That would be water. That would be part of the Pacific Ocean. And these are maps from the 1400s, 1300s,
mm,
and they're out there. There's so much to this, so much to this. The
mm.
World's Fairs. That was the thing that got me, because I never really paid much attention to this shit until the World's Fair. I started to become aware of the World's Fair thing. So you've got the Paris Exposition of 1876. There's then you have the Chicago World's Fair, the White City, and supposedly they built these things in 2 years
Yeah.
out of disposable bill. Now, this was like 600 acres of huge ornate buildings with I mean, like the one of them was 1,500 feet long. The one
Whoa.
exhibition building, it was like 1,500 freaking feet long. And the story is that they built them all out of paper mache and wood for this temporary exhibition, and they were all going to be torn down afterwards. No, these things were completely developed. These were old buildings. This
Mm,
was once a functional city, and now they repopulated it. And at that same point, you get into the whole orphan train thing. You get it, which my grandfather on my father's side was an orphan, and he would have been from that period of time, where you had this crazy repopulation event that happened during the turn of the last century. You had the incubator babies, the Cabbage Patch babies, the orphan trains. It was like this crazy repopulation, and then you had these insane asylums. You had these huge, sprawling insane asylums, acres and acres of giant buildings all over the country, including places that hadn't even been settled as states yet. They're
wow.
still there. The buildings are still there. Why did you need all of this? There's a lot. I don't pretend to know what happened.
Oh yeah, I get it.
Okay, but I know that what we've been told is not. It's just not. Just take the history book and just toss it in the fire because it's bullshit.
No, it absolutely is. Oh wow. Well, let me see. Oh, you mentioned with Trump running the military. it sparked. I noticed what came to mind was, and I hadn't really thought of it, is when the military, or was it the police? I forget. The military turned their back on Biden, I think it was.
During his inauguration, yes.
Yeah, and so the thing
The
is
motorcade,
that
they turned their back to his motorcade.
yeah, and see that's the thing that like when I was like I was in the military when I was young, and because I'm still young, but I was in the military a long time ago, and just knowing how that like chain of command works, that would never happen if so it actually leaves a lot to uh, a lot of validity to the idea of Trump being actually still in charge at that time, because just the way the chain of command works and such, nobody would ever do that.
No.
It just wouldn't happen. There's just no way. It you just wouldn't do it. I mean, yeah.
And you see, again, with the whole Trump thing, there was the continuity of government
Yes.
executive order that he signed on the last day
Okay.
that was rescinded last night.
Oh, wild.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's
Wow.
there's a lot of stuff. And again, see, it's just like the mud flood Tartarian stuff. I don't pretend to know what the answers are. I just know that it's not what's told to us. And it's the same thing with the continuity of government and Trump maintaining position. And so I can't pretend to know what actually happened. But I can tell you for certain that the story that we were given, that we've been working under, is bullshit.
Yeah. And with Tartaria, the idea of, I guess, from my understanding, structures, cities being, covered in mud, basically by mud floods. Well, if we look at the grand solar minimum and maximum cycles, which are, it's like a 400-year cycle. And if we go back, if somebody like just Googles grand solar minimum cycles or grand
Yeah.
solar cycles and the Maunder minimum, the Spore minimum, and such like that, our last big cold period was like the 1600s, I believe, or the 1700s. And then in the 16s, I think, and then it began to warm. And so right now we are at the bottom of a cycle, and up to about 2030, and then it begins to move towards the maximum again. So we're in this transit of like the sun has 11-year cycles, it has 250-year cycles, 400-year cycles, 2000-year cycles. It has longer seasons than we are aware of. But this is the thing: before we had all the climate nonsense and such, this was just known science.
Yes.
That the jet stream has moved as a season over 400 years. It moves. And whenever you hit a maximum or a minimum, or especially a minimum, and begin to warm back up as sun activity begins to increase again, even though it has 11-years sort of in the sun, grand solar minimum cycles are times of evolutionary explosion for humanity. But they tend to also be accompanied by environmental devastation, like mud floods, like pole shifts, like volcanoes. So hell on earth, but consciousness explosion.
Yeah. Well, so you take that and you go into the world of astrology, and I'm not an astrologer. I don't really understand how the relationship is, but lots of people do. So supposedly now, this last couple of days, you had one of these planets doing another thing off of another planet.
Yeah.
But what that means is that this spring equinox is the transition from Pisces to Aquarius.
Yes.
So we're at the end. This is like the last month or two of Pisces, and then we start Aquarius in the spring.
Oh, so, and you've got that. Then you've got, and even though a lot of astrologers will debate where we're at, are we still in the age of Pisces, or have we tilted towards Aquarius? And then, but you've also got the Yuga cycles.
Yes.
Where we're moving out of a very dense cycle into an evolutionary cycle. So if you look at, it's kind of like comparing remote viewers, what they see. When you look at all these cycle changes that oftentimes are rooted in, like, let's say Vedic astrology, the yugas that have at least 5,000 or 6,000 years of history that we know of, you you can look at it and say, yeah, we're in the moment of change. This is definitely a temporal marker, to say the least.
Absolutely. I,
Yeah.
I, I, I think I know. It's gonna get weird and it's gonna get
Yes.
ugly over the next 2 or 3 years, and I think much sooner than later. Um,
Yeah. And that's one of the things I definitely wanted to, chat about is, so we're seeing, we're seeing that. And I think that one thing that kind of gives me hope is that, just so we don't get in trouble with YouTube, I'll just be so superficial, but there was a stop shooting, before Trump got in office.
right.
There was, hey, you guys, stop killing everybody,
Okay.
there, and that never would have happened under Biden, and that regime. Now we have this new power. Um, and I see it as definitely a huge change, because to me, for before he even gets in office, to do the same thing that, well, I believe Nixon, Reagan, and I also think even George W. And even McNamara, the Secretary of Defense back in the day, like World War II and such, um, he called somebody on the phone in a certain country and said, "Stop it." And it seems like that's happened again with Trump, and it's the first time in a little while. And to me, that is truly a smoking, like, molten cannonball across the deep state's bow. I mean, before you're even in office, saying like, hey, we're going to change the direction that we're going, you're going to stop. And then I start thinking like, well, one that you can talk about, like Ukraine, what's going to happen there,
Here's the question: how much of what we've been fed through media, and that would include places like Zero Hedge, okay?
Yes.
How much of what we've been fed is true?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so like this whole ramp up to World War III, right? Which is just freaking nonsense. Okay, how much of that is actually true? How much of these world dynamics? Now, I'm not saying that people don't attack other people and kill people and all sorts of stupid things go on. I don't discount that. But as far as the political posturing, NATO versus, you
Yeah.
know, how much of that is actually true? Because
Mm.
it looks to me, see, okay, so like you look at like Putin, okay? So now, and we're talking about like the deep state, right? So Putin cleaned the deep state out of Russia.
Yes.
Putin is the guy, well, no, he didn't do it. Gorbachev did it.
Okay.
Gorbachev did it he did it from the inside out. I guess the guy had a conscience of some sort, and he started the basic collapse of the Soviet Union. And then at that point, well, Putin's been there long enough now, so that you say, well, the Russia has been run under Putin, but he's not the guy who initiated it. But Putin is he was raised Orthodox Christian.
Mm-hmm.
He's made many public statements about the deep state, satanic forces, um, wizards, all sorts of things in their culture, right? That would be relevant to what we talk about with as far as the deep state,
Oh, yeah. And he's
oh,
very specific. Yeah. He's
very
been very
specific,
specific.
right?
Yeah.
So it appears to me that he and Trump and other
Yes.
players have been playing along in this theater.
Mm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I hope so, because I look at it and I think that if I really want to shock people, if I want to have fun, uh, I'll say like, hey, you know what? Like, Putin is doing more than anybody else right now to make sure your grandkids have a future here in the West.
It's the truth.
It's the
It's
truth.
the absolute truth.
Yeah.
Russia, from what I've never been to Russia, but from what I can see, I tell you what, I watch Garage 54 on a regular. Okay,
Okay.
you ever see the channel?
Uh, I don't know. I'm gonna write it down and check if
Oh,
I
geez, you
can.
got to watch it. Okay, Garage 54. So it's a bunch of Russian gearheads. Okay.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, that's too cool. Okay, yeah. All
Oh
right.
no, way too cool. The things that these guys create. Okay, like I mean, like for example, they'll be like, let's make this. They work with lattes because lattes are everywhere and they're cheap.
Lattes are badass. I want to make a
So
prepper lotta. Okay,
they're
go
like,
ahead.
let's turn this latte into a two-stroke, and they redesign the motors to make a two-stroke. Or they'll be like, let's make it an inline six, and they cut blocks apart, they cut cranks apart, they cut cams apart, they weld it all back together again, and the shit functions. It's like they do, and it's like you can see these aren't like it's not incredibly sophisticated operation, but it's like I watch Garage 54 and I see 1950s, 1960s American ingenuity, know-how, will, mechanical prowess. Okay, and you look at these guys and they're all healthy and they're clean cut and they're you know what I mean. It's like you look at them and you say that's America's past. And that's where we have to go again if we're going to survive as a culture.
Oh
And
yeah.
Garage 54 is in my opinion, is a very significant cultural example of
Wow.
where we need to be, where we need to get back to. The problem is we're so far away from that.
We
And
are.
the biggest problem I see is the delusion that we live under in this country. The main delusion, there's a lot of delusions, but the main delusion is that we're still a functional country, and we are not a functional country. We haven't been in a long time. There are more abandoned cities. There's more wasteland in the United States than there is functional places, right? I mean, Shreveport, Louisiana, to Dayton, Ohio, to, I mean, of course, the cliches like Detroit, right? The country from one end to the other is littered with wastelands. It's already Mad Max in a lot of places, but we don't see it because we're grouped in these population centers. And I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, so I don't really see the realities of Birmingham, Alabama, or you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
There are so many areas in this country that are absolutely, I don't want to say bombed out is the wrong word, but gone. There's no population. There's no commerce. There's packs of wild dogs run the streets, and there's you don't stop at the stoplights if the stoplights work. There's huge portions of this country that are already decimated. And I think that before we can actually move ahead, we have to repopulate and reinvigorate those cities and the manufacturing. Because, manufacturing, so, you get a car plant, like I got Nissan up the road over here. And okay, so that's a Nissan factory. But how many hundreds of small businesses in the area
Yes. Oh my
are
God. Yeah.
vendors? The door lock buttons. Nissan doesn't make door lock buttons. That would be foolish. So they have outside vendors, and there's some little factory in the middle of a cornfield that make plastic things for the Nissan factory. The latches for the things to put the seatbelts in place, or you know what I mean. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
little inconsequential things. So it's like you've got that same situation with these dead cities that are littered all across the country.
Oh
Where
yeah.
a big plant went out, and then all of these little micro businesses that supported the plant are gone too, and then the population is gone. I see the biggest, like the craziest, to me, the craziest thing is the homeless population. Okay, so
Oh yeah.
you've got homeless everywhere, right? And it's exploding, and it's like you've even got a subculture now of just people who live in their vans. All right,
Yeah.
um, but there are cities, there are empty freaking cities all across the country that there's no reason to be homeless. You can just go squat. You know what I mean? It's a craziness. And a big delusion, a really big delusion.
Yeah. It's a big delusion, and there's a great channel, Metal Leo.
Metal Leo, yes,
Metal
I
Leo.
love Metal Leo.
Gone now.
Done now.
Boards.
Board. I love
Yeah.
Metal Leo. He's
He's so
awesome.
great. He's so great. For Lee's.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
great.
He's
No,
so
he's a
great.
car guy.
Yeah, he's so great. Coming soon. We'll see about that. Been coming soon since last year.
He's a car guy. His channel started out as a car channel.
Really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that. Oh,
yeah. And then
wow.
he found a niche.
Yeah. Well, then you find out that like downtown Oakland, which was bustling and amazing not long ago, is now gone now. And so
Gone now.
you can go to the middle of like San Francisco and just go and just squat in a row home that used to be a business. I mean, it people can squat where they may not think. And also the population distribution, we may not be so sure, we may not know what it really is because like I've flown into LA and that's big. But I, in general, don't fly because I think planes aren't put together very well anymore. I don't think
Mhm.
they're maintained either, so I don't. But
I haven't
on the
flown since the '90s.
yeah, if I do fly, it's very, very rare, and because like grandma's dying or something, right? Um, so but I flew into Phoenix like a couple months ago, and I went, "This place is 3 times the size of LA." Do people know that? This place is friggin' huge. It's not just big; it's huge. Everybody's here. It goes on forever if you fly in at night. Anyway, just like how can like Phoenix is bigger than LA? If you fly into it, it's very obvious. And like, do people know that? Do they think that
No,
Phoenix is small? It's not small.
I know. I know. There's what you're saying. So you're just getting a little tip of the iceberg of the bigger picture, in
Yeah.
that nothing that is presented to us or the perceptions that we're given are accurate. And that's a perfect example, like comparing LA to Phoenix.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the things we have to do with, like you mentioned, Garage 54, which I'll definitely channel. Start channeling it now.
You can channel it, really.
Yeah, I'm gonna channel Russians. That'd be kind of cool. But with Garage 54, what we had to start doing is taking our um, youth, kind of like with girl jeans and man buns, and sending them to Garage 54 to learn how to be rednecks again. Because I'm telling you, I think redneck culture is Russian. It came from the Russians. Like if you watch Redneck Fails, like not Redneck Fails, but our Russian Fails, which of course you can't see now because I guess they're sanctioned. But I mean, I'm like, these guys, these are the archetypal rednecks. This
Yep.
is where it came from. It came from Russia.
Yep. Well, the whole Slavic thing, it's like,
Yeah.
what was that? There's a page on Facebook. I used to get a big kick out of. Oh God, squatting Slavs in tracksuits. Name of, name of the page. It's just that. It's just all of a redneck, you know.
Oh, oh,
No,
it's
but
good.
here's the problem. Okay, um, we have the the vast majority of our population is unfit. Okay, they're mentally
Yes.
unfit, they're physically unfit, they're economically uneducated, they don't have drive, and it's been bred out of us. Okay, our diet is poison, our food is
Yes.
poison. Actually, I saw it was a meme, and it was rats eating poison, right? And it was like us sitting and eating McDonald's, and it's like
Oh
it's the
yeah.
same damn thing. Um, no, and that's why I say that we're going to have to go through a period of bad, extreme bad, before we get to the good. Um, 2025 is going to be an interesting year. And one of the things I'm keeping an eye on is the Deagle report. Are you familiar with the Deagle report?
I forget what it is. I know, but I forget. So what is it?
Deagle was a government. The government contracted them for statistics, for trends and statistics. And in 2017, I remember seeing this when it came out. Okay, in 2017, because they were charting population growth, and population distribution. And in 2017, they called for huge, and I mean huge, population reductions in most Western countries. Like, for instance, they call for like a 67%, I believe it was, population reduction in this country,
Yeah.
uh, which would be 200 million people. Most of them, they forecast this for all countries. Uh, I forget which other ones, like England, a lot of the Western civilization, a lot of the Western countries take these huge population hits beginning in 2025. So now I'm looking around and I'm saying, all right, what could trigger this? Because it kind of all aligns with um, the melee, Cliff High's prediction of the melee and uh, things that happen with, let's say, experimental medicine and some pretty off the wall pardons that happen.
Yeah.
Not get in trouble with YouTube. Um, there's all sorts of things, and I'm like, in 2017 when I first saw it, I was like, it's ridiculous, right? And then like 2020, I was reminded of it because you had the thing going around, right? And I was reminded of the Deagle report, and I says, does this do it, right? But they were talking about for 2025. I never really gave it much thought until like this last year, and now I'm like, yeah, I could see something like an economic freeze, an economic collapse, okay, which is kind of mathematically baked into the cards. And I could see during this economic collapse, huge portions of the population doing themselves in. Uh, not actually self-deleting, but
Doing themselves in, like doing themselves in. Yeah.
like once you get a population, once you get a confined population of people, when I say confined, I mean geographically confined to a city, right? Pick a city,
Mm-hmm.
right? Boston is a city, so you're geographically within the gravity of Boston. Chicago, and Milwaukee, you're in the gravitational pull of those cities. Well, I could see during periods of extreme uh, breakdown of the monetary system, of the food and supply chains that go with that, I could see a lot of bad things happening.
Oh yeah. Well, um, as one guy, Matt Bracken is his name, and he's written some amazing prepper novels, and he wrote them quite a while ago, and they have become alarmingly accurate, over the years. And he really absolutely states you have to get out of, as he calls them, the blue murder zones.
Yeah,
He goes,
that's exactly right.
you just have to, whatever it takes. He goes, just get out of there, because you won't have a chance to run when it's too late.
It wouldn't take much at all. I mean, you look at like Oakland, okay, or New York City, right, or any of these places where like they're lawless. There is no. I was just watching a couple of nights ago, and this actually got me thinking along these lines too. I was watching a live police chase, from Los Angeles.
Yeah. Smoke and scan.
Did you see that? It was
Yeah.
two kids on dirt bikes.
Yeah, there's a great channel. I mean, I'm not endorsing his lifestyle, but there's a guy called Smoke and Scan, and he sits there and he smokes. He gets high as hell, and he like he follows all like the police scanners and such,
Okay.
and he'll have a bunch of screens up with the different feeds. Anyway, he's very, very good at what he does, and he also does it more stoned than most human beings can function. So keep going.
Well, okay, so it started out with with cops chasing these two kids on dirt bikes.
Yeah.
And they were legit dirt bikes. Like they're no turn signals, no headlights, no nothing like that. And neither of them were wearing lids. Okay. So it's like I could see a cop wanting to pull them over. It makes sense. Well, they ran from the cops, right? So
Bad idea.
this
Yeah.
starts this chase. They got the helicopter going now. And you say to yourself, well, they can't outrun the helicopter, right?
No.
They can, and they did. So what happened was the guy, and I got to give him props. I got to give him props because I couldn't do it. He's riding his dirt bike in traffic, and he's texting people at the same time. You go for me, and I hope you get away with this because you got bigger balls and skills than I can ever imagine, right? But so the helicopter is following them. for miles and miles and miles. And as he's texting people, other people are joining. And now it's this posse of like 20 or 30 dirt bikes and quads and stuff. And they're doing wheelies and just nothing. The cops gave up on it. The crowd, the helicopter was like, nothing we could follow anymore because they're all, and everybody just gave up on it. Okay. And then you go back and you think of like Adam 12, you know what I'm saying? Dragnet, you know,
Oh,
right? Completely. So when you look at something like that, okay, and you say, well, here's some nut jobs on dirt bikes that made a complete embarrassment out of the cops on the ground, the cops in the air, and a mockery of the whole system in general. Okay. Well, society has already collapsed. It's already collapsed, right? The idea of protection or of security isn't just an illusion anymore. There's not even the illusion of it. You see what I'm saying?
oh yeah.
So when you've got an environment like that, all you need is and the stealing. They go and they just loot everything all the time. And there's no penalties. There's no nothing, right? Take the food away for a couple of days. You've already got a feral population out there. They'll turn cannibal.
Yeah. Yeah. Let honestly just turn EBT off.
Anything like that.
Yeah.
Anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's in all of these big cities. And like you said, the blue kill zones. That's and it's almost like it was so conspiracy. Was it set up that way? I remember. No, I grew up again in New York City, right? I was a child in the '60s and the '70s there, right? And I remember the black neighborhoods, okay, and they were nice. So in New York, okay, everything's very segregated. You had your Italians and you had your Jews always lived together and kind of like commingled, you know, and you had your Irish and you had your blacks and you had your like Puerto Ricans and stuff like that, all spread out through the city were all little, things. And when they ran the highways through New York, Robert Moses literally bisected the black neighborhoods. So you had these regular businesses, you know what I mean? It's just you got Chinatown, you got Little Italy, and you had these black neighborhoods that were the same way. That had their cleaners and their the dry cleaners and the grocery store and all this other stuff, right? And New York City literally deliberately ran 287 right through those neighborhoods, completely destroying the neighborhoods, and at the same time they put the projects up. So and created the welfare state. So it's like all of the stuff has been deliberately for a long time now, for generations. It's been building to this.
No, it has. Yeah. And I grew up
now we're seeing the net result.
we are. Yeah. And I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. So
Okay.
The same thing happened there. Basically, same thing happened there. I mean, it's a pretty rural state like New York is, but it does have Wilmington. It has the tip, which is where it's paved basically, and same thing. And it was extremely ethnic, but it was fine. Everybody got along. There was the Italian neighborhood. There was there we had people don't know that's where the term WAP came from,
Yeah.
without papers,
Without paper.
without paper. And we had the WAP part of the neighborhood. We had the Poles. We had this. We had that. These incredible, beautiful, strong ethnicities. And there was absolutely. I know at one time there was, but at least when I was growing up, I'm fortunate to have lived there because I saw these beautiful, pure ethnicities.
Yeah, you had friction among the teenagers, younger people, and it was generally over the girls.
Yeah.
Because the Italian guys all want the Irish girls, and the Irish guys all want, you know what I mean? So it's like, and so you'd have these clashes, between teenager youth gangs. But that would be it, and it would be nonsense. And by the time they became adults, they just melded in with, you know what I'm saying? And everything was fine. But no, not anymore. And it's all social deconstruction, social de-engineering. Like they took the concept of the melting pot and turned it against itself.
Yeah, it did. And so one thing I'm thinking about in 2025, like since this is the inaugural, Gearhead analysis, I think in 2025, I'm wondering if this is when luxury ideas versus reality begins to truly take place. Because when we look at, well, you can look at luxury ideas like what made the fires in California possible, but also
Engineer.
globally, yeah, engineered. Yeah, these are luxury ideas, luxury beliefs where it's like, well, you know, our fire chief is, you know, there. What is that thing exactly?
Are you
You
talking about the
know,
whole DEI?
yeah, DEI. You like
That's
so we,
over. That's
yeah,
over.
and I wonder if that's a temporal marker right there, because this is the thing I'm wondering, and I'm just so I think for 2025, you've got luxury beliefs, luxury ideals
Okay.
are now meeting reality, and I think that like I lived in California for quite a while. We both did, and we love our California. And if it changed, we would move back. You know, it's the most beautiful part of the country that
I
exists.
know.
I
I
think.
know. I know it is.
Yeah, it's just that like give me Central Coast, like San Luis Obispo, give me like north of Northern California. I live in Humboldt the second. You
Okay.
know, it is a badass town, and they are not godless commies up there. That is bullshit. I mean, they're the ones who were supplying the weed back in the day when it was illegal.
They're
They're,
not government commies in LA either. It's the
yeah,
management. It's the
it,
government.
it is. It is. I mean, if the elections weren't rigged, California would be red. I believe that
Oh,
personally.
absolutely.
Yeah, you know,
Absolutely.
there's way too many productive people there for it to be a blue state. And so, but like I think that what happens in California is like 65 years ahead of the rest of the country, or 35 years in front of some states, or 15 years. But I think that like what happens there is going to happen here, and you see it in every state. I mean, so I'm wondering if in 2025, because of this is where our creatives live. I mean, I'm a disaster happened on the East Coast, of course, but um, a lot of people who can make documentaries, a lot of people who could become conscious, become awake, whatever, some that already are. I mean, you've basically burned out the creative force in the country in some ways. And I'm just thinking, like, could we see, do you think it's possible that that's a temporal marker and we see a consciousness shift there that gets back into individual sovereignty, and that begins to move east rather than what's been moving east from California?
I think California's got a long way to go. I watched a long way to go. I watched a body language analysis
Oh, cool.
of Newsom during an
Oh,
interview
yeah.
with the. Did you see this?
I saw his body language. I didn't see the analysis, but
Yeah. Well, watch an analysis because I saw the same body language thing, and that's why I clicked on the analysis because I saw it. Right. This guy was overjoyed. He was beside
yeah,
himself. Okay. And I was like, is
yeah,
this my imagination? Okay. And then I watched an actual analysis, a body language analysis. And you've literally got so but Newsom isn't alone.
no,
You've got these sociopaths, psychopaths, demonic beings spread through every city, every government, and all the way down, like all the way down. I think probably if there are any I may be overgeneralizing.
yeah,
If there are any governmental entities, and I'm talking about from education, to the governors, all right, and everything in between. I think if any um, governmental entities are not immune from it, but minimalized to it, it's sheriff's departments.
yes,
I think that your county sheriffs and their people are kind of separate. They're not part of, by and large, by and large. Um, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but California has a long way to go. Their governmental structure is so intertwined. The cheating for elections. I know the population Joe Schmo that lives, on the outskirts of San Bernardino isn't voting for Newsom, or maybe in San Bernardino.
Yeah,
You
San
know,
Bernardino. Yeah.
right? Um, I think it's just too corrupt. I think that the corruption in California and the corruption in New York and Chicago are just so over the top that these locations need to be completely decimated before they can ever come back. I don't think you're going to see California come back in any meaningful way, or a decline stop in California. I don't think you're going to see it during our lifetimes.
Mm. Yeah. No, I can see that too. I mean,
And it's a
I'm
shame because
hopeful.
what you said is right. It's the most beautiful. I remember the first time I was in Los Angeles, and I was like, it's just paradise.
It's
It's
paradise.
it's so beautiful. The air is special. The breeze is special. The landscape is special. Everything about it is special, right?
It is.
California is the Golden State for a reason. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But the Golden State attracted all of the psychos and the dark part of our culture.
Yeah, it did. It did. I mean, and that's why really, Hollywood is there because of the light. That's why it actually is there. It's because the light was perfect
Yeah.
for film, So yeah, I mean, California, it's well, I mean, there's been a lot of disaster. We'll see what happens. Oh, and along with Garage 54, if anybody likes Garage 54, RWA, Russians with Attitude, is an
Okay.
absolutely badass YouTube.
Okay.
Um,
Russians with attitude.
yeah, Russian with Attitude. You get a lot of perspective from a bunch of like Russians talking shit. Basically, it's amazing. Well, so you've got. I don't want to keep you all night, but I mean, a couple questions. It's like
That's okay.
so you've got a new video out, and this is a bit of a maybe a
I forgot I do YouTube. I was going
yeah,
crazy. I
yeah, yeah,
completely forgot about that.
yeah. About YouTube, by the way. Yeah. So there's a new video out, and I think it's opening up a new path. It's maybe a direction you hadn't thought of, but it's the cruise in the apocalypse in style. Thoughts on prepper survival and bug out vehicles. And that's something maybe a new direction, and it seems like you've gotten positive feedback on that. But really, what cruising the apocalypse in style, that really is, and having that bug out vehicle, this is huge. This is like a whole new uh direction that has more than one lane. Like,
I completely agree, and I've become an XJ freak. I've got 6 of these damn things now,
yeah.
and one of them I was going to gut completely. No windows, no nothing, just gut it. Turn it into a Woods toy to just go bounce around, right? Uh, um, I have an XJ hero. All right, his name is Justin Browder. His brother does a channel called Dex J. The guy has like 800 Jeeps. Great channel, by the way. If you can get Dexter on there, Dex J.
J.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would make a very entertaining interview. He's an excellent YouTuber, right? I mean, like, give him some time. He only got started, and he's all over the map. But that's okay. It doesn't make a difference. He does great work. But that's besides the point. His brother Justin has a red 96 XJ. Okay, it's 4-cylinder, 4-wheel drive, and it's completely gutted, no glass, no interior, no nothing like that. And he bounces this thing through just hell. Like a normal thing for him is for this thing to do, go end over end and barrel roll and stuff like that. And he just keeps going. He just keeps his foot in the damn thing. It's just the most amazing vehicle, right? So I said to myself, I want that. I want to duplicate it. I don't know if my body can stand that kind of heat, but I want to find out, right? So that was my intent to do with this Jeep that I'm talking about now. So instead, what I'm going to do, because there was a lot of positive feedback, because I said at the end of the video, I says, if you guys are interested, I could do a series on taking a computer controlled vehicle and going through all of the systems to retrofit, to make it a survival prepper bug out vehicle. And I could not believe how much positive response that thing got. So tomorrow, I'm going to go out there in the 8-degree weather and shoot a preview video on that, because I'm not ready to start on it. I have too many other projects I have to get out of the way first. But what I'm going to do is go through the vehicle, show the areas, show what it is, what I have to do with it, and the areas that are going to need attention. And then I'll probably actually start on it in earnest in about a month. But yes, a lot of interest in that. A lot of interest in that.
Yeah, and that is absolutely very, very timely. It really is. It's very, very timely, and it's good luck. Good luck for the channel for sure, because that I think that's gonna.
This isn't a new concept for me.
Yeah, yeah. I
About
mean,
15 years ago, do you know Brian Loans?
no, I don't.
He's right now he's a head announcer for the NHRA.
Okay, don't
And
know. Yeah.
he does a channel. If you're into drag racing history and stuff like that, Brian
Oh, I
Loans.
know. I know. Okay, now I know.
He's
Yeah,
awesome. I've had
gotcha.
him on my show a couple. We've done a couple of lives together.
Yeah, I
We've known
remember
each other
those.
for a long time, but we run in different circles. So we don't buddy around together. Occasionally, we throw each other a text, but like I said, we run in completely different circles. But at any rate, he was doing a website called bangshift.com. This was about 15 years ago, and I did a thing with him on post-apocalyptic drag racing.
Oh my
on,
gosh.
on how how I fully intend when I quit nitro racing, right? I says this is back in like '99, right? I says I'm just gonna wait these motherfuckers out. Excuse my French, right?
It's good.
I'm just gonna wait them out, okay? Because something's gonna happen. The economy, whatever, I don't know what's gonna happen, okay? But something's gonna take all these rich son of a bitches out, and then I'm coming back and I am gonna own this thing, right? So
Yeah.
I did a whole thing on post-apocalyptic drag racing and how I plan on after collapse, after everything, just goes to shit, I will be out there racing anything and anybody I can line up against. So this isn't like a new concept to me. And I stand by that too. Because Garrett, I'm telling you right now, the economy collapses, the population just is decimated, I'm going drag racing, bro. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm going to build me a top fuel dragster, and I'm going to take on all comers.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's amazing. And I like the idea. I mean, there's such a spirit that would bring back that is a good that is a good spirit to bring back the population with. It's been a long time since Jungle Jim.
I was fortunate to walk in his footsteps in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Because he died in 1977. I didn't get to my first drag race until 1976. I was 14 years old, but I came up in the world of starting as a helper and then a wrench and then a tuner and all that. I came up in his footsteps. Like all of the same people that he raced with and he knew are the ones who I learned from. So it was like there's a kinship there. You know what I'm saying? It's like I
Yeah.
never met him. You know what I mean? But I know enough about him
Yeah.
and the ways, right? And I adopted as many of them as I could because this was, in my opinion, he was the most successful person in the sport, period, because he was a guy who only won one national event in his entire career. He won a bunch of small events, but only won one national event in his entire career. But here you go, 40, how many years is this now? 45 years after his death, he's still the guy. Jungle Jim Liebman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he is.
The guy fielded 3 cars at a time, sometimes 4. At one point, he had 3 fuel funny cars, top fuel dragster, and a pro stocker wearing his colors. The guy made money hand over fist and spent it hand over fist without any real major sponsorships at that time. They had Revell, but it wasn't anywhere near like the John Force Castro money that came in later on. Yeah, but I kind of feel, Craig, that putting that aside, I kind of feel like it's my responsibility with the channel because I've got an audience. It's not the biggest audience in the world, but it's an audience just the same. And I feel that I have a responsibility to kind of like show the way, right?
Yeah.
I'm optimistic about, like, I understand ugly is coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm down with that, right? I'm ready for the fight. And I think it's my responsibility through the channel to kind of share that spirit. There's a fight coming, whatever it happens to be, economically, socially, however it comes down. There's a fight coming. Be ready for the fight and know that once you get to the other side, and you will get to the other side, this kingdom belongs to you, because the
Yeah.
rebuilding is going to be all in the hands of people with tools, with knowledge, with balls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're the guys, we are the people who will put society back together again. And ultimately, who rules Bartertown? You're talking about a complete economic collapse. Everything falls to shit. It's the guy who can fix things.
It really is. Yeah, it is. It's like what one of your videos, I think if anything can save America, it's the mechanics.
Yes,
It is.
absolutely. Not just
Yeah.
America, all over the world.
Yeah, it's
Any
true.
place where there's a collapse or devastation from
Oh,
whatever, but a place gets devastated with an earthquake, right? Who puts it back together again? It's all based on obviously construction workers, but they need their machinery, and the machinery has to keep going. And
oh yeah.
construction workers are just a different type of mechanic.
Yeah. It,
Electricians are just a different type of mechanic. Masons are
dude.
just a different type of mechanic. We
Yeah.
all do the same basic thing. We just have our specialties. My specialty is turning wrenches on an engine. Your specialty is snaking wires through a wall. But we're all mechanics. We're the guys who make things happen.
Yeah.
And that's the message that, like, I feel it's my responsibility to try to get across to the audience that I've got.
Yeah, and you are getting it across, and it makes me think about the Ukrainian mechanics. So, like EVs, like when Teslas get thumped, a little dent, right? They have to write it off because the insurance companies don't want the liability. So they just say it's junk. You scratched it, it's junk. Well, anyway, where do these totaled vehicles that have a slight ding actually go? Well, where do the water damaged ones go that were in the East Coast? They go to Ukraine. They're actually, because gas there is profoundly expensive right now. It's astronomical. So they're sending those to Ukraine, and some of the best battery rebuilders are in Ukraine right now.
Oh, I believe it.
Because they go, well, we don't have gas, but we want cars. We still kind of got electricity. What can we do? Send us your junk Teslas. Oh,
Ukraine is the perfect example of, we were talking about Putin before.
yeah.
Okay. Ukraine is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. And nobody ever puts two and two together. No, nobody ever, common sense. Nobody ever applies common sense. The Russian military is huge. The weapons, the systems, the technology they have is unfathomable to the average person. You and me being the average people. Okay. If Putin really wanted to end the war, and I'm not even talking about bringing up nukes. I'm not even talking about nukes. If Putin really wanted to hurt Ukraine, right, to take Ukraine, he could do it in 3 minutes. I mean, it would take nothing. Okay, look here. Just let's mobilize all of our forces here. Take the guys from Siberia that just sit there and count snowflakes. Send them over there and finish this thing off. In an hour, there wouldn't be a structure, anything recognizable in the entire landscape known as Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, just because nobody ever looks at the obvious. And it's like, oh, Putin's such a bad guy. He's trying to take over Ukraine. No, Putin has been very kind and very generous with Ukraine, and just hitting back. Just what I mean? It's like when I play with my puppy. Okay, she's crazy. She's insane. She goes into these rages. She bites me. She goes. I got holes all over. I was bleeding last night. Right. I give a little snap on the nose. Right. Yeah, I could kill her in a second, but I wouldn't even dream of doing that. I wouldn't want to hurt my puppy. But she gets a little snap on the nose to know don't do that. And that's what Putin is doing with Ukraine. And that's what he's been doing all along. Just little swats here. You know what I mean? And you bomb this, you bomb that here. All right, now stop that.
Yeah. And if you watch what's happening there, like in Ukraine, like people don't realize, who aren't paying a little bit more attention, that all of NATO's best weaponry is on display in Red Square. It is there, and it's an international sightseeing. People from all over the world are going there to see NATO scrap metal. And they have a certain style to it too. They'll go, okay, wait a second, look, let's let them get the Patriot missile battery all turned on, right? Okay, we can see it. Yeah, of course we see it. Okay, they got the radar on. Okay, let's send a shit ton of Landsets at it for a good show. Okay, now 2 hypersonic missiles. Boom. $1 billion down the toilet. That was never gonna shoot a rocket at anything. And it's terrible, but it's also, I'm waiting for them to drag the carcass of a Patriot system to Red Square and put that on display too, because that's coming in 2025.
A lot of stuff is coming in 2025. I can't pretend to predict, or I've got some kind of inside knowledge or insight, other than I think this is going to be a year that history books 200 years from now, 500 years from now. I believe that 2025 is going to be a year that one of those pivotal years that they'll talk about as this is when everything changed.
It is a temporal marker. And well, I don't want to keep you all night, but let me ask you a couple quick questions that have really easy answers, and then I think that really helps to get some good info across. So here's one: Bitcoin, some shitcoins, gold, silver, and commodities, and we should consider ourselves commodities if we do mechanical work, are good to go in 25. Most likely, not financial advice, of course, but I think we're going to see that stuff's going to do well in 2025.
Okay, so gold and silver, ultimately, yes, because after any sort of eventual collapse, right, mathematical certainty, right, in order for there to be global acceptance of any new currency, it's going to have to be backed by something. In order to back a currency, any currency, whether it's a BRICS currency or a reformulated US dollar or a CBDC, doesn't make any difference what it is. In order for it to have acceptance and credibility, accountability, it's going to have to be linked to a traditional hard standard. So it's going to be gold and silver. I have no question, no doubt about that. So, and actually, there's a few things about this, right? Yeah. In order for it to be accepted and work on the scale that it would have to be worked at, it has to be revalued. And the numbers that I see are gold between $50,000 and $80,000, and the short number for silver is about 600. But silver always outperforms on a percentage basis. So during a collapse, and so here's where things to get a little tricky. Okay, remember that the spot prices you see are all based on paper. It's not the real commodity. Okay. And there are so many different mechanisms to leverage these things, and it's just mind-boggling, and it's nonsensical. But those are the numbers that we go by. When the metals do cut loose, in preparation for a revaluation to back whatever currency comes and replaces, you're not going to see spot prices. It's going to become a black market thing. It's going to be where you can go to. Well, actually, a lot of states like Tennessee now have. Now accept gold or silver for real estate purchases. So you can settle real estate purchases directly in the metal, bypassing the entire system. Wow, so there's a lot to this, and a lot of states are adopting this right now. So when the revaluation comes, it's not going to be televised. It's going to be a local accepted exchange rate, however that works out. But you will see the buying power equivalent of $50,000 to $80,000 in gold, and probably $600 to $1,000, probably higher for a short period of time in silver. And it's going to be like the typical black market stuff where you'll meet the Chinese guy at the Starbucks and tell him, I've got the silver, and he'll say, well, I got deeds to this one, and this one. You see what I'm saying? And this is how deals are going to be made, right? And the states aren't going to care, because as long as they keep the ball rolling and they keep some kind of tax base going, they'll be happy. One of the things Cliff High talks about is the irrelevance of authority during this period of time, during this melee. where the government officials, governments and people who enforce, okay, aren't going to find the pay worth the hassle, and they'll either just
Oh yeah.
walk away or just turn their back. And that's, again, you go back to Soviet Union, you can bribe anybody and get however much meat you want. You know what I mean? Just take care of that guy and go ahead, knock yourself out. And we're going to have the same situation here. That's gold and silver. Bitcoin, well, not even Bitcoin, crypto. Okay, I'm in crypto. Now, crypto is the greatest scam that has ever existed on a multi, like the U.S. dollar. Okay, crypto is above and beyond. It's an astronomical, incalculable scam. All right, I'm in it because it's a speculative crypto. The
Yes.
whole crypto thing is going to end up as a rug pull. Period. And that's when you'll see the gold and silver thing really go nuts. Right? The crypto world is a rug pull. It's a setup. It's not real. Okay. I would say that there are elements within the negative elements within our government which had a lot to do with its formulation and its okay. Um, but the amount of money that can be made during a trade, as long as you don't get greedy,
Yeah.
as long as you don't get greedy. But I can see like it's common, especially with like meme coins and stuff, where you'll get like 10,000%, shot, in 2 hours, and then that goes to rug pull, right? So I think you're going to see that on a bigger scale, and I think you're going to see things like the whole crypto space. I can see it taking a moonshot and common to get the public really into it, to get a public common 300, 800, 1,000% increases over short periods of time, and then a big moonshot, then the rug pull. And the rug pull is going to be something like a blackout or something like a virus, that is able to penetrate these wallets or whatever it happens to be. I don't know what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be it. Done. The trick is to cash out before the mania.
Yeah, that's the thing with crypto. It really comes down to well, for people who just want to buy weekly, monthly, whatever works for them. Gold and silver, remarkable assets. That's kind of like the safe place to be.
Yes.
But I look at crypto. If you are a trader, I mean, if you've got your trading view account and you are a trader, and however you're swinging in and out, if you have a plan as a trader, crypto, that's money right there, because that's what I do in part. And so. But that's more like your skilled trader is going to know when to get in and when to get out.
Have you ever heard of Francis Hunt?
No, I haven't. Francis Hunt. Okay.
He's an Australian guy. He has a channel called the Crypto Sniper.
Oh, the Crypto Sniper. Okay, I need to catch up with him. I have not watched his channel in a while. Okay.
Now, if you watch him on other shows, okay. If you watch him on other shows, he's very adamant about crypto being a scam. That it's all formulated from the dark side. That it's like it's just the ultimate in evil, right? But he's like, but if there's money to be made in it, I'm going to make money in it. Make it, right? So like his personal stance is that it's a scam, okay? But he's this guy's sharp. I mean, this out of all, or I'm not an analyst, okay? But of all of the analysts and strategists I've seen, this guy is like, he's sharp. So
Okay.
I try to pay attention to what he says.
Oh, I'll have to. Yeah, I think I almost had him on the show once. It was only we just got mixed up in our scheduling. This is years ago. It reminds me. I'll have to check up on his channel and get him back on, along with Andy Schectman, actually, because
man, I would love to be in on a show with Andy Schectman.
Oh, I can arrange it.
So much respect for that guy. You have no idea.
Oh, I can definitely arrange it. Yeah, Andy's great. One thing about Andy Schectman is I've talked to him on the show, of course, but also outside of the show. Yeah. And he's incredibly approachable, and if you got any questions for him, you can always have those how would I put it? There's always that time before and after the show, right? Yeah. So if you got any questions that you can't do on the show, he definitely will. He knows what he's talking about. I'll arrange it. I'll get out. I can get all three.
And like I said, there's a collective.
Yes.
How many degrees from Cliff High? Okay. And
yeah.
Andy Schectman is one of the ones that he's right there. He's in that. He refers to they refer to each other back and forth. Who's the other guy? John Claude. Have you seen this guy?
John Claude. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
he has a thing called Beyond Mystic.
Oh, Beyond. I can remember that. Beyond Mystic. That
Beyond
sounds
Mystic. They,
cool.
they run they run a few things on YouTube, but he's mostly on, I think, Rumble.
Yeah, that's where it's going. Yeah,
But
we've actually done some like Rumble only shows where we just have to do Rumble only just because,
yeah, well, he's part of that How Many Degrees from Cliff High group. It's amazing. Like it's like everywhere I look, there's another connection to Cliff High, and it's almost like Cliff High himself is a temporal marker.
I'd say he is. I definitely would say he is.
Hello, humans. Hello, humans.
Hello, I was going to say hello, humans. I
And his
actually,
wife.
here's one for you. I found of all weird things, I was in a Goodwill. Like Aaron and I love love thrift stores. That's like where 99% of our stuff comes from. And I was in a Goodwill, and I'm like going through the t-shirts, and I found a Cliff High t-shirt, just this like image of him and saying hello, humans. And I was like,
Really?
beyond chance.
I would be afraid to wear that on my channel.
Oh, well, I'll send it to you if you'll wear it on the channel.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. You have to keep out of trouble. Yeah. Well, so 2025 is the reality of no savings leading to debt into hard assets. I'm thinking I'll always kind of be, with the people, right? I do understand how a lot of people in the last, especially since I don't know, January, March 2019, um, a lot of people who did everything right, who were responsible, they were living by their means and they had a plan. They were doing okay. Since then, with hyperinflation, different events, they're screwed. They're basically just waiting to go bankrupt. And I'm kind of thinking that 2025 is where we're going to see people just saying, screw it, I'm going to go bankrupt, but I'm going to get into hard assets. Because then when I have nothing, I'll have something.
I disagree with.
Okay, good, actually. Yeah.
I disagree with the premise that people are recently finding themselves in this situation.
Okay, yeah.
This has been a slow burn, really, since 1971.
Yeah,
And you go back
exactly.
previous to that, but really since 1971. So you had there's two pivotal events. Okay, there's lots of events, right? But okay, three pivotal events that lead us to where we are today. Okay, Nixon closing the gold window to international redemption on August 15th, 1971, a day that will live in infamy. All right. Then you had the inflation, surprise, surprise, that happened in the late 70s. And the answer to that was pivotal event number two. And that was Reagan handing the running of the country over to Paul Volcker at the Fed. From that point forward, the Fed led policy. It wasn't the Treasury Department. It was the Fed is going to run this show. Okay. So now you had a period of calmness, right? And the illusion of stability with steady inflation. Okay, we're going to have our 2% inflation, right? Oh, okay, we'll take food and energy out, right? You see what I'm saying? All games and stuff like that. And then you had pivotal event number three, which was the GFC, right? So 2008 to 2012. And at that point, okay, the wheels actually did come off the horse or the cart, okay? At that point, all of the discipline and all of the supposed laws that kind of kept the program together were just, it's a free for all, okay? If your institution is broke, just come up with a new device, some new thing we can hang 3 or 4 letters on, and we'll pile people into that. And the derivatives market went berserk. Evidently, there's at last count, the last time I really looked into this, a few years ago now, there were something like $4 quadrillion involved in the derivative market. A derivative is just a bet against a bet, is all it is, right? It's a nonsensical, non-real thing. And okay, let's forget about that. But the pivotal event was the great financial crisis, and at that point, laws, regulations ceased to exist, and also at that point, the bail-in became a thing, because up to that point, the government was going to bail out banks and institutions as they went tits up. But I forget which law it was. From that point forward to today, now it's bail-ins. So if your institution goes tits up and the government chooses not to, you're done, right? The government, you are giving, you put money in the bank, you are literally giving that money to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the bank. And an agreement, they give you access to your money, and then they charge you for the access to your money. Okay. The FDIC is nonsense. They can't cover 2% of the overall deposits. So unless the FDIC gets refunded to the tune of like several $trillion, it means nothing. So what I'm getting at, okay, is that since the early 70s, people have been harboring or living under the illusion of prosperity, but all
Yeah.
they've really been doing was creating more and more and more debt, right? During this period of time. So if you go back to normal times, right? Let's say I go buy a brand new house, and just for round numbers, okay? I paid $100,000 for this house, and I live in it for 10 years. At the end of the 10 years, what is the house worth? Now, to our normal life that we live today, well, a house is worth $150,000, $200,000, maybe even more. But in normal times, that house is worth maybe $60,000 or $70,000 because everything wore. The roof wore, the furnace wore, the plumbing wore, the floors wore, everything wore. Everything needs to be replaced, replenished. Eventually, it ends up as worthless. So
Mm-hmm.
during normal times, a new house would devalue until it reached the level of the property, and then it would stabilize and just go with the property. But it's not like that. In our entire lifetime, real estate does nothing but go up,
Yeah.
and the debt associated with it. So it's become the idea of being in debt, using credit, using other people's money, has become the norm. People have been enslaved by this system now for at least 50 years. It's just now mathematically it's reaching the breaking point,
Yes.
and they just can't keep up anymore. So you go back 60 years ago, right? Yeah, 60 years ago, one man working one job supported the wife and the 2.4 kids and the house in wherever they happen to live, and the car and the transportation and all of their bills and everything. One man working one job did that. Then it took, you get to the early 70s, and it took one man working a job and a part-time job. And then it got to the later 70s, and it took a man and a woman working full-time to do this. And the whole time, it's just
Mm.
becoming this aberration just keeps becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, until now you've got two people working two full-time jobs with a side hustle here. Each of them's got a side hustle, and they still can't pay the friggin' bills. And they're still, and that's where right now we're just at a mathematical breaking point where there are not enough physical hours in the day to make the amount of money that it takes
Yes.
to maintain the life of just normal living. And that's part of the collapse.
And that makes sense because if you look at a spreadsheet and you make a graph, and if you connect enough of those dots, you'd see where eventually we've been in impossible land for quite a while. And I think anybody with that, with the, like, I know I've been thinking about that for a decade, is how long can houses double in value, and to the point where eventually no one can afford any of them.
Right. What is the
Yeah.
value of a house that nobody can afford if you can't qualify for a mortgage? Right. And what is the value of the house? And now banks aren't writing mortgages. And
Yeah.
that's nothing compared to, you go back to Metal Leo. Okay. And what he's showing there. Now,
Yes.
all of that real estate is
Woo.
financed. The commercial real estate was the sweetheart investment for the last 40 years. Okay. It's decimated. Technology has removed the need for offices. Technology has and Amazon has removed the need for mom and pop type of stores. No, commercial real estate is gone, and all of these institutions, they all bet the farm on commercial real estate, and all of that is getting, excuse me, refinanced now this year and over the next couple of few years. Trillions of dollars worth of useless real estate. No, this is not going to end well. There's
That's
no way that it can.
yeah. And will that crash the banks? Like, will that crash the system? It's true because
The
we have
banks are already crashed. If you look at what they borrow in the overnight from the Fed, right,
yes,
every single day. No, the banks are already dead. The banks are, it's a zombie. It's a zombie, right?
yeah.
It,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
what you said makes a lot of sense about that. It used to be, you had your probably two cars, house, bills paid, one guy going to work, and he usually worked for 35 years, retired, then he had a pension, like there was this template they could follow, but we are so far from that. And if you could draw in a, say a spreadsheet, a curve between there and here, we're screwed. Like
I've
we've been
seen
out of luck for a while. Yeah.
I've seen the spreadsheets. And it's like and then you get to 2020, and this is where we are right now. And right, exactly. And then you
Yeah.
look at unrealized losses, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's yeah. This is. I know a lot of people are like, they're optimistic about Trump being in there, but there is nothing that Trump can do. Nothing that Trump can do. But here's a telling thing, okay? See,
Yes.
I observe everything, okay? So on, I don't know if you've seen any of these, okay? But I've seen recently over the last couple of weeks, Don Jr.
Yeah.
does a commercial for one of the gold companies. And I don't remember which one it is. It's not like Miles Franklin. It's one of them, okay? But this is Don Jr. now, okay? This is the president's son, okay? And he does a commercial endorsing this gold company. And he says, in no uncertain terms during this commercial, that economic collapse is a certainty. The only way you can cover yourself is with precious metals. Now, this is the president's son. Okay? There's no way he would be able to make that kind of statement publicly unless it was agreed upon with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense?
It does. It does. Yeah.
So Trump knows this. He knows he's been handed a ticking time bomb. He can't say it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
You
But
can't
he can
say
say
it.
it. Yeah. But
I was expecting the rug pull to happen right up to the inauguration. I was expecting over the last couple of few days that we were going to see some kind of rug pull that would create a constitutional crisis that would delay or
yes.
indefinitely, right? But it didn't happen. It could happen over the next couple of few days. Well, let's see. I don't want to make predictions. I don't want to make predictions because predictions never pan out. But I have a gut feeling that some extremely disturbing economic developments, disturbing to the average person, to the normies, are going to manifest over the next several days, week or two, and it's going to change the script.
I could see it. I could see it. Yeah, we'll see how that actually turns out, and it is something that Junior can say things that Trump cannot, and that's a great avenue. Even Vivek can say things that he cannot. So we'll see how it works. My hope is that, but Trump definitely needs to push Jared Kushner off a cliff. That's just my take on it. if it happens, I'll be like, all right, maybe not morally sound, small picture, but big picture, plop. I'm okay with it.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so are we going to see? I think 2025 could be a year where we see a lot of newer cars, uh, disturbingly new cars, stacked like old rubble in junkyards.
Yes. Yeah, you've got situations going on now, like these wet belt systems. Have you seen this now?
No, wet belt system?
Yeah, they're running like ballast shafts and whatnot. Ford's doing this with a lot of their engines. Some of the manufacturers that they're running wet belts. So instead of having a chain running like the balance shaft, they're using a friggin' cogged belt.
Huh.
Yeah, I know. It sounds crazy. Look up wet belts. This is a
Wet
common
belts.
thing, and now failure is becoming common. Um, oh God, there's so many points of failure in the common the common car, um, and I think these cars that have been built since 2015 or thereabouts, the
Yeah.
current generation, they're supposed to last the length of a loan. Okay,
Yes.
which now they've pushed out like 7 and 8 friggin' years. So you got to get like 7 or 8 years out of the car. And those cars that were built at the beginning of this overcomplication era are all coming due now. And you're going to see people like things with CVT transmissions and
Yeah.
infotainment, the screens that run everything, and these backup cameras that will brick the car
Yep.
or the tail light that bricks the thing, because all of that is coming home to roost now. And the average person who's bought new cars over the last several years is going to start seeing repair bills that are just going to make their eyes spin. I remember, when my tail light went out, on my 2002 Camry, my mechanic fixed the bulb. He charged me $20, and now you want 2,000 for the part. And then I got to bring it to the dealer to have it reprogrammed. No.
Exactly.
Oh, my wife lost the key to the car. I mean, I can't just go to the locksmith and give him like $6 to make me a duplicate. I got to bring it to the dealer, and it's going to be 300 for the fob and 300 for the reprogramming and all this other shit. And you need it for 3 days. I got to rent a car because you see, and all of these realities are coming home to roost right now for the average person.
They are, and it's like here in Arizona, Jeep Grand Cherokees and Jeep Cherokees are like incredibly popular. And what Jeep has done to us since the XJ is criminal. I
I
mean,
know.
it's sad because like when you put the transmission in the Cherokee in a way that it's okay. Here's one for you. So they say you never have to change the transmission fluid in a Grand Cherokee or a Cherokee.
Right.
Bullshit. It's in Phoenix, where the ground is 8,000 degrees. It's done in 20,000 miles, and you're damaging the transmission.
Right.
So you got to change it regularly. And then if you have one of the myriad of problems these 9-speed nightmares have. The issue you run into is you have to pull the transmission to even do so you can change the fluid, but to change the fluid in the filter, you have to pull the transmission. And so, anyways, it's just like, and then it has, calipers inside of it to change the gears, and they're prone to failure. So anyway, like not only are the transmissions a pain in the ass, they're $6,000 to even touch, and then they don't. The dealerships don't tell people when to change the fluid that would actually give the car a chance at 100,000 miles. It's criminal. I mean, it's bankrupting people.
It's across the board. It's
Yeah, it
across
is.
the board. It's not just Jeep. It's all of them. It's all of
Yeah.
them. I feel bad for the average person. I really do. I really feel bad for lower income people who rely on a steady stream of used cars, because
Yeah.
you're not going to have them anymore.
That
You know?
video you did of the what was that car? Yeah, see, and I'm watching XJs myself, and I'm watching used cars. I'm looking at old, Tacoma, old Toyota trucks and things
Yeah.
like this, and it's shit. I mean, we're on the verge of used cars being an investment now.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's yeah.
Yes. Savvy people are realizing this.
Yeah, they are
So mechanics
fast.
and other people like, and you see, that we go back to I talk about, how it's our people. who are
Yes.
gonna like, okay, well, we're the ones who are seeing these trends, and now we're the ones who are buying up the survivable cars.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're gonna you're gonna see like, and there's certainty. I know this. This Chevette was a fluke. I know it was a fluke, but only because current right now. Okay, you go a couple of years in the future, you're going to see the same valuation on cars like that, like we saw with the muscle car era cars. You know, 442s and Hemi Cudas and GTO judges, all the other shit. Well, the cars that are going to take their place among the desirable collector cars are going to be 1990 Nissan Sentras, are
Yeah.
going to be, which was an icon of reliability. When I was in New York, 88, 89, 90, 91 Nissan Sentras, they were everywhere. They were bulletproof. They lived in New York City with all the potholes and all of this shit. Those cars survived. They were tough as nails, right? It was simple to work on. Cars like that are going to become prime collectible, and they are going to take the place of the GTO. Not that there won't always be a market for the fun cars, for the interesting cars, but I'm telling you, just the uniqueness of having something that's rebuildable, that's serviceable, and then at that point, you're going to see a resurgence of the hands-on backyard guy, where it's going to be like, yes, I am alpha because I can change my oil. Where it's like up until now, right? You take the societal thing for the last 30 years, 40 years. Who is going to work on their own car? Who can change their own flat? Who would even think about doing that? Right? That's dirty work. Well, now you're going to see that become the status symbol. I
Exactly.
work on my own car. You do? Yeah, I have
Yeah.
wrenches.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm telling you, that's where it's going.
I think so. I think so. And the individuals that are building, that already have and or are building, or expanding their garage, that will be helping their neighbors keep their cars going. That's money in the bank right now. Those skills are commodities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not just the skills. You don't even need the skills. All you need is the will.
Yeah.
Okay? Because most people don't have the will to do it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to dive into the unknown. You know what I mean? Like, if we're car people, so to us it's like you don't even think about, changing a battery. I know you have to open my eyes for that, right? But for the average person who's never done something like that, that's a big adventure. It takes balls to journey into that unknown area. It's a battery. It's got enough power to start the car. It could kill me if I do this thing wrong, if I touch it wrong. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about electric cars. I'm talking about just like regular cars. That is going to be a thing. I'm telling you, I see it. The pendulum always swings the other
Yes.
way, and when it swings the other way, it does it hard. So you went from it started with the disco era, clean hands and silk shirts and gold chains, the Guido thing, that's where it started. That was the culture. That was the beginning of the helpless culture, right?
Yeah.
Until now, it was over the last 20 years. It's been a status symbol to be helpless. The
Oh
more
yeah, of
helpless you
course.
are, the more people accept you, right? It's going to go the other way. It's
Oh,
going to swing
100%.
exactly
Yeah.
the other way.
I mean, I think about when it was slightly different times, but I mean, when we were kids, if you'd driven by um, like one of your neighbors and AAA was changing their tire for them and they were a man, we know what
Right.
would happen. You'd yell "fag" out the window.
You would think very poorly of that person.
Yeah, he'd be disgraced,
Of course, it was an old guy or somebody who's
Oh
clearly
yeah, yeah.
crippled, that type of thing. Of course,
Of
But yes,
course, yeah.
an able-bodied person not changing his own tire. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know how old are you?
54, 55, something like
Oh,
that.
I just got a couple of years on you. I'm 62. But I remember very, very clearly, very vividly, growing up on Staten Island, early 1970s, when on a Saturday, It was normal. It was the normal thing that when you drove down any street in my neighborhood, hoods were up. You know what I mean? Doors are open. Cars were jacked up. People were working on their cars. Average person would be doing a tune-up. They'd change the plugs. They'd be changing the filters. They'd be changing the oil. They'd be, giving it a nice hand wash and stuff like that. They would be maintaining their cars. It was the normal thing. They'd be rotating their tires, right? Using bumper jacks and cinder blocks to hold the car up. That was the
Yeah,
normal thing.
it was. Yeah.
That was the normal thing. And if you look at the way cars were marketed, like you go back to like 1970, Ford was very big on this, where when they introduced, like for instance, they introduced the Maverick, right? One of the commercials introducing the Ford Maverick was a bunch of stewardesses, and it was like 7 stewardesses, okay? And the point was, this car was so simple that these 7 stewardesses could take it all apart and put it back together again. Look up early Maverick commercials.
Oh, I gotta see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was like they were marketing how easy these cars were to work on and how you could do this yourself. And now it's the exact opposite. They don't even give you a dipstick like you're talking about with the Cherokee. It's like,
Yeah. Wow. Well, last little like topic question is along with May 2025 being the year when luxury beliefs meet reality, in newstarget.com, there was an article, Germany's nuclear paradox, importing expensive power after shutting down their own reactors. And I think that's something which is just amazing. And also in Austria, I believe it was, and in Germany, they had a not very breezy and not very sunny winter. So I think that their green energy didn't work very well, and people who were paying in some areas who were paying like $300 a month for heat in the winter, their bills went to like 3,000 because there was no bills. I mean, there was no wind, there was no sun. So when I drive by here in Phoenix, some of these huge parking lots full of Teslas charging, and they're always full.
yeah.
And that's expensive to charge those things. I start thinking, I wonder if 2025 might be the year that we start seeing that as an elite thing, because if we have hyperinflation, as I think we're in right now, of course, I mean, who's going to be able to afford to charge their Tesla?
So okay, so the whole electric car thing,
yeah,
is just, it was absurd to begin with, right? It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea on so many different levels.
Oh yeah.
But and I think I did a video about this. If I didn't,
yeah, a couple. Sure. Yeah.
But okay, you want to get deep for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
You want to get deep? Okay.
Yeah.
Look at the floor that you're on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you see your floor? Now I'm going to look at my floor. Okay? Our floors are connected. Okay? I can, right now, you're in Phoenix, I'm here in Tennessee, I can right now walk on an unbroken surface to any one of my vehicles. And I can travel on an unbroken surface to you and stand on your floor. If you were to electrify your floor, and let's say it was made of a material that could conduct electricity all the way to Tennessee, I would get shocked.
Yeah.
Okay? So our world is connected through unbroken surfaces, many miles away, completely connected. And it's all based on the capability of the internal combustion engine. The way the internal combustion engine, so if the creator made us in hers image, well, we made the internal combustion engine in ours. Okay. And then we formed a society and a culture, a world based on the capabilities of the internal combustion engine. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the dynamic of the world that we exist in right now. An electric vehicle cannot perform those same tasks. It cannot move efficiently. You know what I mean? Everything, our entire world is based on the capability of an internal combustion engine. Nothing but the internal combustion engine will function in the world that was developed around the internal combustion engine. So just on that one simple fact, electric cars are folly.
I like it.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, yeah.
Right? And it was forced on us. It was
Yes.
forced on us by the WEF and all of the climate people and the what was the dickhead's name that lives over here? Al Gore, John Kerry, and right, all these freaking criminals. It's a scam. The whole thing is a scam. CO2. Oh, gotta get rid of CO2. I don't know. Every freaking plant I know just loves this stuff. You can't give enough of it, right? The CO2 they want to get rid of is us, right? The fuel we use is carbon based, and we're carbon based, and everything is carbon. So it's all good. This is good. It's the use of oil, which is it's like a gift from Mother Earth, right? It just keeps giving. It just keeps making it, right? The Earth sweats oil. You know what I mean? No, it really does.
Really?
It
Okay.
sweats oil. You think about how much oil is consumed every freaking day all over the world. Okay, and think about right now. We're sitting here talking, and there are millions of cars in bumper-to-bumper traffic jams all over the world right now, all burning fuel. There's diesel trucks, millions of them all over the world, every minute that we're alive, right? All burning this stuff as fast as they can. And it happens every day in and day out, every week, every month, every year, every decade, and now every century. Unbroken. Okay. So I think that the public awareness of it's not fossils, it's not dead friggin' dinosaurs. You know what I mean? It's like, because it's so ridiculous. You know what I mean? How can anybody believe this? I think the general normie awareness of the value of oil, of the fallacy of climate change, of the inherent idiocy of an electrified fleet, right? I think all of that comes home to roost in 2025. And they're already rejecting electric cars. The general public is already, anybody who wanted one got one.
Yes, I think so.
Right? And now you've got great numbers of people who, like, the thing's going on with the charger, the electric charger. You've got huge numbers of people now that are like, now they're becoming militantly anti-EV, right? Because they were like, EV, live and let live. You know what I mean? It's fine. But now you take something like, you took our Hemis away, you took our Challengers, you took our Hellcats away, and now you're giving us this with a fake exhaust.
Yeah.
I think a militant public backlash against, and if you read the comments, you go through like Facebook and you'll see like an ad for an electric car, Lucid or whatever, right? We'll run an ad for like Volvo. They'll run an ad for electric car. Read the comments. Like 90% of the comments are "shove it, commie. I got no use for that." So I think the public backlash, and I'm not, I know it sounds like I'm talking about this like I'm anti-EV, and I swear on everything that's good and holy on this planet, I am not anti-EV. I have no problem with them. If you choose to use an EV and it fits your life, yes. And should the manufacturers provide those cars? Of course they should, right? But the mandates and the trickery and the deceit and the funneling of money, the tax credits and all of this other shit, right? That is all done. That's this year. That comes to an end.
Yeah, and I think that might be, of course, that's an example of luxury beliefs meeting reality. EVs were always a luxury belief. It was never based in reality. And really, it wasn't even a belief. It was, now there's your psyop. I mean, right
Lots
there.
of psyops involved there.
Yeah. Historic and new. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the geopolitical things. Ukraine sits on a bunch of lithium. China. please. I don't even want to. I don't even want to, because now you're going down. Now we got to go down other
Yeah.
rabbit holes.
Yeah, and that's one thing about EVs is that we already have kind of fought the gas wars, and we know where that's different. But EVs and the raw materials to create the batteries, it creates new wars.
Yes,
And it's
and
so
slavery.
so. I mean, there is nothing more pro-war than a Tesla.
I don't want to I don't want to be the guy that comes down on Teslas, because I think that they're necessary for a certain percentage of the population who can really use them, right? And who
Yeah.
like them. There are Tesla enthusiasts. There are people who love these things. There are
Hmm.
guys that drag strips. There are plants that just
Yes.
stomp
Rip.
all over everything. And I
Oh,
say more power to you. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
If you can get that thing into the threes, I mean, I want to watch that. This is cool shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to come down on electric cars in that way. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I love all different types of engines and motors and motivation and stuff like that. And I think it all has a place. It's the mandates. It's
Yeah.
when Joe Average is conned through all these different devices to buy an electric Hyundai, let's say, or whatever, right? And now he can't park it in an underground garage, and he's afraid to charge it in his house because he reads about these things that catch fire and shit. I did a video about the school bus. Did you see I did this maybe a year or two ago, right? There was a school bus. There was a bus. Um, this was in China, and it was a row of buses. There were like three buses parked next to each other, four buses parked next to each other, and the one on the end smokes, like there's a puff of smoke that comes out from underneath it. Okay, and then 1.5 seconds, 1.5 seconds. Okay, the entire thing just erupts. Right, I just anything that would have been on that bus, from the smoke to like complete devastation. Anything on that bus was dead, like no chance. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No warning, no chance. And things like that, like the gentleman, like yeah, the airport fire, the Luton airport fire, 1,500 cars. People know that was an EV. The government, like, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, they know the scam is up. Um, I did videos on this. Jeff Buys Cars, a great channel. I love Jeff. Um, he did a lot of videos on this. It was a Range Rover, a diesel Range Rover, but it was actually a hybrid diesel Range Rover. And the
Whoa.
thing that
Okay.
went off was the lithium-ion battery, and so it took it off. But as far as the officials are concerned, it wasn't an EV, an EV fire. It was a diesel. It was a diesel hybrid, and the EV battery in the diesel hybrid is what took out the airport. And this happens all the time. These reports are all stacked because they're all tied together, bro. They're all
Yeah.
tied together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Right? Everybody, it's like one big club, and we ain't in it. Okay? And
Yeah.
it's like, no, don't report on bad things for EV, whatever you do, right? The people are catching on. The people
And
are
there's
starting.
and there's that guy, I forget his channel name, but it's the Australian guy. He says like that there's an Australian guy's got a channel, and he looks at a lot of the news about EVs. That's a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
more.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Give me a
He's
second.
a,
I see a lot of his videos.
he says like what was a lawyer and
Yeah,
whatever, and now
an
he's a
architect and lawyer, and now he's a Sydney-based YouTuber.
yeah, and I mean he really brings forth a lot of information about EVs and what they're
What
doing.
can I put the name of his channel?
Uh I'll put it in the show notes. I'll see it in my feed tomorrow, But he
Yeah,
does great. If a person wants to really follow the disaster of EVs, he covers it so
he's
well.
good. Yeah, yeah, he's
Yeah,
good.
and there's that fire in California right now. The what I didn't even
Yeah,
know this existed, where basically like because of the inefficiency of the green power, they have this like it's basically like it's a battery backup. It's
yeah.
battery it's power cleaning, it's power storage. It's basically a huge iPhone. It's a huge it's LA is powered by a huge iPhone, and so that lithium battery went up because of the fires, or maybe it just went up because it went up. But that thing, you can see it from space, and the
Oh, it's
firefighters.
it's north a couple of hundred miles from the fires.
Okay, so yeah, it just blew up on its own, I
Yeah,
guess. And the thing is, you can see it from space. It's burning
yeah,
a hole through the earth, right? And the thing is, all the firefighters can do is go, yeah, just keep people back. That is a fire.
yeah.
We
What about those
basically,
cargo ships? You had
yeah,
3 cargo ships go down because EVs lit off. They're like, oh no, it wasn't an EV, that didn't happen. But they actually had a video of the
yes.
cars, and the one of them just spontaneously bursting into flames.
I know.
3 freaking cargo ships, each of them carrying thousands of cars. I think one of them had like 4,000 cars on it.
Oh,
Oh, that's
yeah.
really safe for the planet. That's
Okay, and they're probably still burning on the bottom of the ocean right now. They're probably water doesn't put them out. Like that should concern people, you know. Well, anyway, it's been great talking to you. I'm gonna talk to Andy and say we need to do uh yeah, that would be a great podcast, a great get together. I need to have.
I would just like to be a fly on the wall and just.
Oh no, I would just sit back and let you guys do all the work. But
Oh no, no, listen. I
I'll
couldn't hope to go back and forth with Sexton. The guy's just awesome. I'd just like to be a fly on the wall, like
yeah.
ask a
Well,
question what pops up.
yeah. Well, we'll make it happen. That I definitely. Well,
I wish I could get. I would love to do a live um, on my channel with somebody. He's not a car guy, but somebody who's familiar with cars and familiar with that's in that industry, right, or in that world, to try to get that message across to people in a way that they can understand. There's a lot of my viewers, they're just car people, man. They just want to have fun with their cars, right, and work their job and make their money. And the idea of trying to make them aware without shoving it down their throat is very difficult. So I would love to find somebody who was, like, say, of Andy Schechtman's caliber, that's also a car guy, that I could do a live like this on my channel and try to get this idea introduced to people in a way that they can understand it.
yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, that's the challenge. Well, you do what you can. You put out some good videos along those lines, and people. I hate to use the new agey term, but people awaken. They wake up when it's their time.
No, I listen. I never gave much credence to any of the stuff in the past. It's like, the woo. But now, as I get older, I got 62 laps around the sun. The right. Okay, got 62 of them under my belt now, and now I'm really starting to understand the interconnectedness of nature, of energies, of the whole woo thing is really starting to make sense, including the divergence of timelines. Because
Yes,
I actually see it, right? You and I are living a completely different reality than, let's say, somebody in Oakland,
100%.
or somebody, right, or somebody who's stuck in to use a cliche term, that's stuck in, let's say, the economic matrix, where it's like, the 9 to 5, the corporate grind, the corporate slavery. We're living a completely different reality than these people. And it becomes more and more like the roads are separating more and more as we go. You see what I'm saying? Like
100. Yeah.
40 years ago, people who thought outside the box weren't really that different than the average person. And now people who think out of the box are collectively thinking out of the box together, and their existence is becoming much different than. And so it's like, you talk about the divergence of timelines.
Yeah.
Again, I always thought that was just so ridiculous, right? There was that woman, Dolores Cannon.
Yes.
You've heard of her, right? And
Oh yeah.
her whole thing was about New Earth and blah blah blah. And I was like, go away, right? No, no, I totally get it now. I totally get it. It's not that a new Earth is going to pop up. It's that there's a new reality. There are separate realities and separate uh, uh, energies, or universes of energy, that are taking us in completely different paths.
100%.
There's a lot to all this.
There is. Yeah, there definitely is. And actually, somebody we've had on the show a couple of times, Frank Jacobs, he has a great webinar he made called Tale of Two Timelines. I'll send it to you, where
Really?
he talks about that, because oh yeah, Frank Jacob. I mean, he's not the first one to talk about it, of course, but he's put forth some really good, content on that. Yeah, there are two timelines. I mean, a lot of people have, but he's very good. Frank Jacob, he's been on Radiant Creators, and he definitely that awareness that you're speaking of it's out there. It's out there.
It's growing. It's growing, and I think it's our job to kind of like our job. It's our response. I don't want to use the word job, and I want to use the word responsibility because those words don't fit.
There's two drag strips.
Two directions. One is all oiled out, and the other one is all prepped.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's a job or it's our responsibility or anything like that. I think that we have a purpose, and the purpose is to kind of be an interpreter, to try to understand as much of this woo thing that we're talking about, timelines and divergences and energies and blah blah blah. Try to understand as much of that as possible, and then demonstrate through actions more than words to people who can understand it and will with the right motivation. If that makes any sense. I know it doesn't make any sense because
It does make sense.
I'm trying to put together an abstract thought. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to put it's hard to put into words because we exist in like linear time, but like the tale of two timelines is not necessarily linear. So anyway, we're trying to put words to something that doesn't exactly exist in our reality, but we're aware of it. I don't know. It's hard to put in words.
Cliff High, you got to go back to Cliff High, right?
Yeah.
He uses a phrase, and it comes from a martial arts tradition. I can't think of the name of it that he studies. Okay, and he uses a phrase, "the ever-present, eternal now."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the ultimate goal is to live in the ever-present, eternal now. Okay, and you do that when you're involved in something. Okay, so like for instance, you're changing an axle in your car, whatever it happens to be, right? At that moment, when you're there and you're involved in that particular thing, you are living completely in the ever-present, eternal now. There is no past, no argument that you had 3 weeks ago, no failed business that you had 5 years ago, no education you had 20 years ago matters. None of that matters. Where you're going to be 5 years from now, how you're going to die, are you going to get buried or cremated? None of that shit makes any difference because during that period of time that you're working on that axle, you are existing in the ever-present, eternal now. And the goal is to have your entire life become that ever-present, eternal now.
That's inspiration.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's the key or the core of the timeline difference. Okay. People who are involved in things, whatever they happen to be, whether they realize it or not, if they're involved, they're existing in that ever-present, eternal now. Where other people who are, let's say, in the 9 to 5 corporate slave world, or worse than that, the homeless world, or you know what I mean? They're not. They're existing for what can be. They're missing what was. You see what I'm saying? And they're frustrated by their current. They're angered by their current reality. And I think that's the key to the timeline shift.
That makes sense.
Does that make any sense?
Oh, it does make sense. To me, it does. Yeah, it does.
I think it's our job to kind of display that, not explain it, but encourage people into that. And
all you can do,
can absorb it, it'll click.
Yeah, all you can do is do it.
Right. Lead by example.
Yeah, lead by example. It's something that you can be, you can know, you can do, but you can't exactly explain it. So it's a different kind of communication.
Yeah.
All you really can do is you just walk your path. You do. It's hard to put into words, but we did close enough. Yeah.
It is. But man, it's a fun time we're in. I think 2025 is going to be like, it's going to be great.
2025. It's when the timelines break. It's when the timelines truly, like when we actually do split, the timelines split. We truly have two timelines. That's 2025. I'm ready for that.
I am ready for that too, and I'm dying to see what Cash Patel is gonna. It's gonna be great. Keep an eye on him. Out of the whole cast of characters there, Doge is going to be interesting. You know what Elon does. I don't even know if Vivek Ramaswamy. I can't even remember. I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think, and Ron Paul was in on that circle too.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool.
Elon Musk brought Ron Paul into that circle. And again, I don't know if Ron
that's
Paul is still in there. Okay, but that's all Doge, right? And coincidentally enough, Elon promoted the Doge coin
of course.
3 years ago, was it?
Yeah.
4 or 5 years
3
ago?
years ago. It would have been 20. Oh, wow. 2016, 2017, something like that. I forget. No, it would have been then. I don't know. A couple years ago.
Well, when he was in it, okay, or when he was promoting it, the tweet, okay, he put out a tweet. It said, "The future is Doge."
Oh, that would have been about 8 years ago.
And what do we have right now?
Doge.
Department of Government Efficiency, Doge.
Oh gosh.
What is he referring to? What are the odds? What are the chances that this one guy has this coin called Doge and does a promotion on Doge? What are the odds? What are the chances? How could the universe conjure this up that the same guy all these years later is in a completely different place in the world now? Now he's in politics. Now he's buddy there with you know, and he's in charge of the what do you even call it? An agency called Doge, and the purpose of Doge is to be a wrecking ball to just wipe out all of the excess.
Oh yeah. And then you got and Cliff High, like way back in the day when Trump was still like you're Mr. You're fired, and Joe Rogan was selling fleshlights. Cliff High was like, one day these two.
Just amazing stuff, man. I'm getting the biggest kick out of it. I'm really enjoying this. So,
me too.
but yeah, keep an eye on Cash Patel, because he's an outspoken Q guy. He's an outspoken conspiracy guy. And the fact that he's there now, it just blows my mind. Right? It's just, I thought it was like pretty amazing that Marjorie Taylor Greene got through back during the period that she, and because she was a big Q person. But Cash Patel, no, this is crazy stuff. This is truly crazy stuff if you know the history of these people and where they come from and what they've talked about.
Yeah. Wow. Well, 2025, I think we've definitely done our Gearhead inaugural kickoff party here.
Gearhead.
Gearhead.
We got all over the map. Which is kind of fine by me.
Which is good.
Enough. You know what I mean?
It's good. Well, so Radiant Creators is easy to find, radiantcreators.com. And then, well, you can search UTG, Uncle Tony's Garage on YouTube. But also, I think there's UncleTony'sGarage.com, right?
I can't do those letters. UncleTony'sGarage.com is just our merch store.
Yeah. So Uncle Tony, if you just go to YouTube, UTG, or just type in UTG, you'll see Uncle Tony's Garage. That's where it's happening on YouTube. Join the fun, and I'll have all kinds of stuff we talked about in the show notes. You can check it out. I won't make you have to work for it. You can just scroll down in the show notes, and you'll find everything we talked about that I can find a link to. So anyway,
I really enjoy conversations like this. Like I guess we've been at it for 2.5 hours, right?
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Yeah, I love conversations like this.
It's good stuff. Well, we'll do it again. We'll see how things flow. We'll see how things turn out. What we were right about, what we were wrong about. We'll catch up. And
whenever you're ready, man. Just give me like a week's notice. I know to clear an 8.
Yeah, we'll do we'll in a little while we'll check up and see how the timelines are evolving, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got my number. If you come across anything interesting, throw me a text.
I will do so. All right. Uncle Tony's Garage, take care. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Craig. This was a lot of fun.
It was, it is. Thank you. All right.